Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Be sure to follow us over on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. And as always, I'm encouraging people to cast a vote on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Remember, you can choose either Candy Matson or Nero Wolf, candyvnero.greatdetectives.net to learn more about the two great detectives we're voting on. Comment from Scott on Facebook says, kind of foolish on my part, but I'd guess that since I voted for the Dragnet Show, I was not able to vote for the other shows as well. I've added a vote to the Great Detective Show along with Andrew's old-time Radio Western show. And that is true of Podcast Alley. Not a mistake at all, just never been stated. But yeah, you can vote for multiple shows, as many as you would like on Podcast Alley. So any podcast you enjoy, you can vote for. If you have the app, well, then it's your last chance to get an Alan Ladd bonus. We have Alan Ladd appearing on both a comedy and a drama show. A great release, actually. I was very happy. I was only going to do the Burns and Allen, but the old-time radio researchers released the Cavalcade of America set, and it's such a beautiful, well done show. I was glad to include the Alan Ladd episode of that as well. Well, before we get started, I want to let you know about our sponsors. You know what I like about a product? I like a product that's confident that it can meet your needs. GoToMeeting is confident that you'll find its web and voice conferencing easy to use, secure, and that'll help you be able to connect with more people while saving time and money. That's why they're offering you a 45-day free trial. Listeners to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio just need to go to gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast to start their free trial. Now it's time to get into today's episode of Box 13, House of Darkness.
Box 13. With the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of Star Times. I have something that may intrigue your sense of adventure. I myself cannot follow it up because I am blind. However, if you will come to the braille room at the public library tomorrow at 11 in the morning, you may be able to find something of interest.
You may be able to find something of interest. I think someone is in desperate danger and needs help. I'd like to know what you think. William Michaels. Well, the letter did intrigue me. And as I found out later, Mr. Michaels did have something.
And now back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, House of Darkness.
I wonder how this Mr. Michaels knew about Box 13, Mr. Holliday.
I wonder about that too, Suzie. He says he's blind.
Gee, This is really one letter I'd follow up if I were you.
You would? Why?
Well, wouldn't you?
Wouldn't I if I were you?
Yeah. No. I mean, you know what I mean, don't you?
Not now. I had an inkling before, but that's all gone. Never mind, though. What time is it?
11:15.
Well, that gives me 15 minutes to get to the public library. And also get a ticket for speeding, if I want to get there on time. But maybe it'll be worth it. Well, I didn't get the ticket, and exactly 15 minutes later, I walked into the braille room at the library. There were only two people in the room, a man and a woman. The woman was busily running her sensitive fingers over a book. But the man was facing the door with a tense, expectant expression on his face. I walked over to him and sat down. He turned his face toward me and then...
Box 13?
That's right. You're William Michaels?
Yes, that's right. I didn't know whether you'd come or not. As a matter of fact, I half wish you hadn't.
Your letter mentioned adventure. I never turned that down. What have you got, Mr. Michaels?
This
book?
Yes, it's in braille, as you can see.
Yes, I know that, but what about it?
Let me read you a passage from page 80. Listen closely.
Go ahead.
And the terror of the night is hidden in the dark corners of my mind, and the shapes and phantoms that live in fancy are become real.
Is that all?
Yes, that's all on the page. All that was originally on the page. But listen to this. Help me. 1217 Granger Avenue.
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that's on the page?
Yes. Someone who knows how to read and write braille has used a pin or a needle to put this message on the bottom.
Let me see that page. Uh-huh. The characters are faint. But someone has done what you said.
What do you make of it?
I don't know. But before we go any further, how did you come to write to Box 13?
Well, I have a friend who reads the newspaper to me. He saw your ad in the Star Times. Adventure wanted, will go any place, do anything, write Box 13. And being a romantic sort of fellow, he read it to me.
Oh, I see.
We sat and conjectured a lot of things, what you might get into through that ad.
Oh, I managed to get into quite a lot of trouble, Mr. Michaels. But let's go back to this braille message. Help me, 1217 Granger Avenue. When did you discover it?
Well, yesterday morning, quite by accident. I almost ran my fingers past it. I thought the characters were imperfections in the paper, you see. That was at first.
Mm-hmm. Run your fingers over it again, will you?
Yes. I did. Why?
They're still sharp enough for you to read the characters.
Yes, that's true.
Therefore, they haven't had time to be pressed down, make them illegible, so to speak.
And what does that mean?
That they were made quite recently.
Yes. Yes, of course. Oh, that's clever.
No, it's just common sense.
Do you think I should have taken this to the police?
I don't know. It may be a joke, a prank.
Yes, I thought of that.
Let's find out, shall we?
Are you going to that address?
Oh, no, not yet. Not until I find out the name of the person who had this book out at the library.
How can you learn that?
You see, every library book has a checkout card in the pocket on the inside of the front cover.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the checkout card has the number of the borrower's card on it. And the borrower's card has the name and address of the person. Now, let's go to the main desk, return this book, and see what the checkout card says. And that we did. We waited until the book was returned to the braille room. Then we looked at it again.
Well, does it tell you anything? The checkout card, I mean.
Let me see your library card.
Oh, yes. There.
Mm-hmm. Your card number is 9E4839. Now, that's the last card number written on this checkout slip.
Then the one before mine must be the card number of the person who had the book out before me.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. There are 4 other borrowers' names ahead of yours. One of them has to belong to the person who put that message in the book.
Copy them down, and maybe we can find out whose card it is.
Uh-huh. Come on.
Where to?
The main desk again.
Do you think it's some sort of joke?
If it is, it's in bad taste. But coming at the end of that dismal paragraph you read me...
Do you think that means anything?
Your guess is as good as mine. Here we are. Oh, I beg your pardon, miss.
Yes, sir. May I help you?
I think you can. Here's a list of 4 card numbers. I'd like to know to whom the cards belong.
Oh, I don't think I can give you that information, sir.
Against regulations?
Well, yes.
Well, my name is Dan Holliday. I think you have several of my books here in the library.
Oh, of course. I've seen your picture on the jacket.
Oh, now don't hold that against me, please.
Oh, I won't. But you wanted some names?
Yes, you see, I'm doing a little research, and, well, it's for a story.
Well, I guess in your case it'll be all right. May I have the numbers?
Oh, yes, here you are.
I'll be back in a moment.
I didn't know you were a writer. In fact, I didn't even know your name.
That's right. Now you know. Dan Holliday.
Then this should be just your meat, Mr. Holliday.
It all depends. If one of the card numbers checks with the address of the message, then maybe we've got something.
I almost hope it does. And then again,
Here she comes. Hold it.
Here you are, Mr. Holliday. I hope you won't mention this because it is against regulations.
I've already forgotten it.
Are you writing a story about this?
I don't know yet. But thank you very much.
Not at all, Mr. Holliday.
Well, what are the names?
There are 4 of them, Mr. Michaels. And the last one on the list is Mrs. Martha Corbett, 1217 Granger Avenue. A half hour later, Michaels and I sat in my car a few houses down from 1217 Granger Avenue. Maybe the whole thing was a joke. Then again, maybe it wasn't. Michael sat silently for a couple of minutes, and then...
Do you see anyone, Mr. Holliday?
No, not a soul.
What kind of place is it?
Big, dark, not at all the type of house associated with sweetness and light.
Oh?
But then maybe I'm making mysteries out of nothing.
You're not going in?
With what? Could I ask to see Mrs. Martha Corbett?
Why not, if she needs help?
We don't know that, Michaels, and we...
Why did you stop talking? Isn't that a car?
Yes. Yes, it is. Stopped in front of the house.
Who is it?
I don't know. But it's a doctor's car, and he's getting out.
Doctor.
Uh-huh. Which means nothing at all. Doctor's illegal.
What's he doing?
He's gone into the house. Michaels, I've got an idea.
What is it?
I'm going to make a phone call and find out something.
A phone call? To whom?
To the automobile club and find out who belongs to that license number on the doctor's car. Then later, I'll visit the doctor. Well, I found out who the doctor was. I dropped Michaels to the library and told him I'd meet him there later. It took me 10 minutes to convince the doctor's receptionist that I had to see him. Then in his office...
My nurse tells me you insisted upon seeing me, Mr.
The name is Holliday, Dan Holliday.
Oh, very well, Mr. Holliday. What seems to be the trouble?
I have a headache.
Headache? Good heavens, man. My nurse seemed to think it was some fatal disease.
Well, it's a bad headache.
Who sent it to me, Mr. Holliday?
One of your patients, Dr. Folsey.
Oh, really? May I ask which one?
Oh, yes, of course.
I'll give you a couple of tablets to relieve you. But the cause of the headache is something we'll have to look into. Here you are.
Thank you.
A glass of water.
The patient who sent me was Mrs. Martha Corbett. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have knocked the glass out of your hand. Although I didn't touch it. Did I?
I'm sorry. That was clumsy of me.
No harm done.
So Mrs. Corbett sent you to me, huh?
Yes, she recommended you very highly.
Is that so? When did you last see her?
Well, not recently.
Just what are you trying to pull, Mr. Holliday?
Paul, I don't understand.
Evidently not. Because I don't think you even know Mrs. Corbett.
No? What makes you think that?
She hasn't seen anyone for 6 months. Not a soul.
Except you.
I'm her physician.
So you are. Dr. Folsey, what's wrong with Mrs. Corbett?
Until you tell me what you're trying to do, I refuse to answer your questions.
Suppose I told you she asked for help.
You're lying.
Maybe you are, too.
Mr. Holliday, I want to show you something. I have no idea what business this is of yours, but since you seem to think it is, I don't mind showing you these. Here, look at these papers.
These are commitment papers for Mrs. Martha Corbett.
Exactly. 7 years ago, she was confined to a sanatorium.
I see. And now,
this.
Who's the phone call to?
The police, Mr. Holliday. Care to stay around for it?
Put it down, Doctor. You win.
Now, I'll give you just 1 minute to get out of my office. If you're not gone in that time, I'll complete that call.
All right, Doctor. I'm sorry to have bothered you. I won't do it again.
That's right. You won't.
And you left his office, Mr. Holliday?
What else could I do? I poked in there on a flimsy excuse. He threatened to call the police.
Mr. Holliday, please, believe me, I'm blind myself, and
What do you mean, Michaels?
I know what she thinks, how she thinks.
I don't know what you're driving at.
A person who is blind develops almost a psychic sense. Call it an extra sense if you want, but he does have it. I'm sure that Mrs. Corbett needs help.
Now, look, all we have is that message in the library book. I told you Dr. Folsey showed me her commitment papers.
But he didn't put through the call to the police.
Oh, I see what you mean. A bluff.
Yes, it could have been.
Yeah, it could have been. I wonder if a person with nothing to conceal, with nothing to be afraid of, would have gone through with that call.
Well, put yourself in his place. Would you?
I think I would have. Maybe you're right, Michaels.
Then what are you going to do?
Well, I've gone this far, I may as well go all the way.
Yes? Where?
All the way into that house on Granger Avenue.
And now back to House of Darkness, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
Well, maybe it was a wild goose chase with no chance of bagging any game at the end. But it was worth a try. If Dr. Folsey was bluffing, then he put on a good act. If he wasn't, I had to play it straight anyway. So later that same afternoon, I walked up the stairs to the front door of 1217 Granger Avenue. I rang the bell and waited.
Yes?
Oh, how do you do? My name is Holliday.
Yes, what do you want?
I'm the inspector from the power company. I have to look over the wiring and fixtures in your house.
Now?
If it's convenient, yes.
Well, it really isn't at the moment.
It'll only take a few minutes. I know it's a nuisance, but it has to be done.
How long will you be?
How many rooms have you got?
Only 6 that we use.
Oh. Then it'll be about a half hour.
Well, all right, come in.
If you have something to do, I can make the rounds myself.
I'll go with you. I'll show you the rooms we use.
All right. Please lead the way.
The library is here.
One ceiling fixture, 2 wall fixtures. Any lamp outlets on the baseboards?
2, right here.
Uh-huh. Well, they look okay. Ceiling fixture seems all right. Ever have any trouble with shorts, blown fuses?
No, none at all. Everything in the house is in perfect working order.
Oh, that's good. Makes my job easier. All right, Mr.
The name is Whitley, and... Didn't you know that?
I cover about a dozen houses a day. Names don't mean a thing to me. Only fixtures.
Oh. Well, come this way. The dining room is just off the library. Next to that is the kitchen. Then one of the bedrooms. The baths are off to the right of the bedroom. There are several small pantries.
We went through one room after another.
They have no lights in them.
Then we went upstairs, and Whitley led the way along a hallway that started at the head of the stairs and ran to a window at the far end. There were only 2 rooms off the hallway. We stopped at the first one.
This room is merely a storage room. Would you care to see it?
Oh, yes, I would. That is, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Oh, just an empty room.
Just an empty room. As you can see, the ceiling fixture has only 1 bulb in it.
Well, it seems to work all right.
And that's all.
What about that room down there?
We never use it.
What's in it?
Nothing at all, beyond a few odds and ends of old furniture.
Mind if I look at it?
It's locked.
Don't you have a key for it?
No, the key was lost. I'm having another one made. Perhaps if you come again sometime...
It's an inside room, isn't it? No windows, I mean.
Does that make any difference? I assure you the room is never used. The lighting fixtures were sealed up some years ago.
Oh, I see.
Now, if that's all, and if you don't mind, I have some other things to do. And
What's that?
This is an old house. The water pipes are defective. This way, Mr. Holliday.
Oh, certainly. Oh, have you a phone?
Why, yes, downstairs.
I'd like to use it if you don't mind.
All right, if you'll follow me.
He led the way back downstairs. I knew I had to stay in that house if I was to find out what or who was in that locked room. I had an idea, and I hoped it worked. But if it didn't, well, I'd never get another chance to get back into the house. Then downstairs.
There's the phone. Help yourself.
Oh, thank you. I hope I haven't inconvenienced you, Mr. Whitley. But these things have to be done, you know.
Of course.
Hello?
Hello, Michaels. This is Holliday.
Holliday, where are you? What's happened?
I've just made my inspection of 1217 Granger Avenue. Everything looks okay. I called to find out if there's anything else to do in this neighborhood.
What?
Uh-huh. Oh? Oh, hang on. I'll find out. Mr. Whitley?
Yes?
I wonder if you would mind looking out of the front window and see if any linemen are working the street.
All right. I'll be back in a moment.
Michaels, listen closely. Wait 10 minutes after I hang up, then call this number. Gramercy 8342. A man named Whitley will answer. Say you're Dr. Folsey, and you've got to see him immediately. Give him a phony address. Say you're calling from a phone booth. That's so Whitley doesn't have to check the call back. Sound excited, nervous. Then hang up with no explanations. Have you got it?
Yes, I got it.
Good. Sure, Michaels, I'll go right over there right now. Oh, just a second.
There are no linemen working outside at all.
Oh, well, thank you. They haven't got here yet, Michaels. Yeah. See you later. So long.
No, if you're quite finished.
Yes, I'm quite finished. Thank you. Whitley saw me to the door. I went to my car and pretended to drive away. But I parked around the corner, then walked back toward the house. I hid in a doorway until I saw Whitley leave the house. He was in a hurry, so I knew Michael's fake call had reached him. It was evening and almost dark. I circled the house and tried all the windows until I found one leading into the basement that I could force. Brother, I was breaking the law, but I had to. I went upstairs to the room Whitley hadn't let me see. I knocked.
What do you want? Please go away. Leave me alone.
Mrs. Corbett. Mrs. Corbett, I've come to help you. I found your message in the library book.
You. Thank heaven. Come on in.
I thought the door was locked.
No. Where are you? Come closer.
I'm right here.
Who are you?
Never mind that now. What's going on here?
Please get me out of here. You must.
The door wasn't locked. You could have gotten out.
I'm blind and I'm afraid. I tried to get out before, but someone's always there.
Well, there's no one in the house now. Whitley's gone.
Gone? For good?
No, he'll come back. Who is he? Why are you kept in here?
He's my nephew. They want me to sign the will he's drawn up, and then they'll kill me.
No, they won't.
Day after day, I put messages in books they brought me from the library. First I wrote them, but they found them. Then I put the message in braille.
I know all that. You said something about a will.
Yes. If I sign it, they'll kill me, and I can't stand it much longer. I'll have to sign it, and then they'll kill me. As soon as I sign it, they'll kill me.
Mrs. Corbett, I saw Dr. Folsey. I saw commitment papers he had.
It's not true. He forged them. Forged them for my nephew. Don't you see? If I ever got out, they'd have those papers to prove that I...
Yes, I see. How long have you been here?
A year. Please, you've got to get me out.
Look, Mrs. Corbett, I broke the law by getting in here. If it happens you're not telling the truth, I'm in a bad spot. They could prosecute me.
You've got to believe me. Please.
Maybe I do. All right, I'll take the chance.
Listen, someone came in downstairs. They're coming back.
Something must have gone wrong.
You can't get out of here. There aren't any windows.
Listen, now you've got to help me. I'll get in that closet. Don't give any sign that you know I'm here.
Hurry. They mustn't find you.
That's up to you. I got into the closet and waited. Then I heard...
Well, Aunt Martha, I was a little worried about you.
Whitley, we've got to get her out of here.
Don't worry, Folsey, we will.
You had to fall for that fake inspector guy.
Shut up! Aunt Martha, we'll give you one more chance. Sign the will now and nothing will happen to you. If you don't, we'll...
No, I won't sign it now.
What does she mean, now?
I don't know. Aunt Martha, what did you mean?
Nothing.
She did, Whitley.
Yeah, that fake call from you. Aunt Martha, is someone here?
No, there's no one. Please let me alone.
Folsey, go to the closet, open the door. Me? Don't worry. If someone's in there, we can take care of them. Go on.
Whitley, it's him, the man who came to see me.
Well, the inspector himself. Come on out.
All right. And what do you think you'll do with that gun?
What do you think? Folsey.
What?
Call your office. Arrange for an ambulance to come here.
Well, what are you going to do?
What we have to do.
Look, no killings, please.
Shut up.
May I ask how you found out about the fake call from our Dr. Folsey?
I called his office when he wasn't where he was supposed to be. Well, Folsey, go on.
Please, Whitley, no killing.
You're in this up to your neck. You'll do as I say.
Oh, sure, do what he says, Dr. Folsey. Throw away a lifetime of helping others. Isn't that what a doctor does?
You shut up.
All right, I will.
Whitley, there's some other way.
I don't think so.
No, there's no other way, Dr. Folsey. Just do what he says. Forget that you once took an oath that all doctors take. It's easy to forget, isn't it?
You'll stop talking now, Holliday, or I'll see that you do.
One way or the other, I'll get it. So why shouldn't I talk now? Go ahead, Doctor. Call the ambulance. Take Mrs. Corbett and me out of here. Go ahead.
Folsey, go on.
We left the house. Whitley had a gun in my back. Mrs. Corbett had been drugged and was put on a stretcher. The ambulance waited in front. I looked around. The street was almost deserted except for one man walking slowly toward the house. Then I heard it. The tapping of a cane. The lone man coming closer. It was Michaels. He stopped.
Holliday, get in the ambulance. Go on.
Whitley, for the last time, don't try this.
Whitley, we've got to hurry.
Go on, Holliday. What are you staring at? That man?
No.
He's blind, isn't he? Holliday, that man, you know him?
No, I don't.
I think you do, and you make one sound, one move to let him know what's going on, he goes with us, too.
I said I don't know him.
I don't believe you. Remember what I said, one move and he goes along. If you want that to happen, do as you please. Well, that's better. Remember what I said. Let him get past.
I'm sorry. I stumbled.
It's all right. Hurt?
No. I caught myself against the side of this car.
All right.
It frightened me. I seem to have dropped my cane.
Here you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, that's being a good boy, Holliday.
You would have killed him too, wouldn't you?
Yes. You saved his life, Holliday. Now get in. And we'll all take a little ride.
Well, it looked hopeless. This was going to be a great ride. Our only hope was Michael's, but how could he help? He was blind. Whitley must have read my mind because he laughed.
You were very smart, Holliday, but you seem to have outsmarted yourself.
Yeah, it looks that way, doesn't it? But do you really think you're going to get away with this?
Why not? Your only hope is a blind man.
Whitley?
What's that? Folsey, what's that?
Police cars.
All right, don't get excited. They can't be after us.
Whitley, they are after us.
Don't lose your head.
Looks like something slipped up, doesn't it, Whitley?
You're whistling in the dark.
Look, they're signaling us to stop.
What? Go on. Get going. Outrun them.
It's no use. We can't do it. There's a traffic signal ahead.
Oh, have them go through it.
No, they'll shoot.
Holliday, this is your fault. I'll get you. I'll kill you.
Oh, no, you don't.
Kill you.
Looks like this is your last ride, Whitley. Folsey, tell the driver to stop this ambulance.
Yes, Mr. Holliday.
I don't know how Michaels did it, Whitley. But I'm very glad he did.
Jeepers. How'd you ever do it, Mr. Michaels?
With these.
Just his hands and his fingers, Suzie.
I don't get it.
Sure, Michael.
Oh, all right. Now, look, Suzie. Here's a coin with a date on it.
Yeah?
The date is 1935.
You felt those numbers with your fingers?
That's right, Suzie. And it was simple for him to run his fingers over the license plates of the ambulance.
When I stumbled, I dropped my cane. I ran my hands over the car. I knew it wasn't a regular automobile. Then I felt the license plate.
Gee, and then you went to police.
That's right.
And that, Suzie, is what you call using your head and fingers. Good night.
Listen in again next week when, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, and this week's original story was written by Sam Walters. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager, and the part of Suzie is played by Sylvia Picker. Vern Karstensen is in charge of production. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. Well, clever ruses may not necessarily be Dan Holliday's strong point. He kind of ironically stumbled through this episode a little bit, but made for a pretty good adventure here, with some assist from the blind man who sent in the original letter. All right, well, we have a quick comment here from Podcast Alley. Very knowledgeable host. Love the insight. Also the explanation of some of the unfamiliar phrases used in the shows. Well, thank you so much for your kind comments, and that'll wrap it up for today. Send your comments into box13@greatdetectives.net. Before we do get started with the show, I do want to let you know about our sponsors. If you like the flexibility to live your life and do the things that are important to you, you'll like GoToMeeting. With GoToMeeting's conferencing solutions, you can meet virtually with clients and business partners and reduce the cost associated with doing business. GoToMeeting is from Citrix, the makers of the trusted GoToMyPC product. Like GoToMyPC, it's simple to use and it doesn't require you to learn new technology. Listeners to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast to begin your free trial. Well, here we skip ahead in time quite a bit. Our last episode aired November 16th. We finished a period between October 19th, 1949 and November 16th where we had all 5 episodes in a row. We only actually have 8 more episodes in existence, even though there was a total of 47 episodes aired in the 1949-50 series. And there aren't a whole lot of titles for the shows in between. The one that Dennis at Digital Deli could come up with was the show that aired on December 7th, was called The $100 Guy, which he gets from a Long Beach press telegram. So this one, Some Enchanted Carhop, aired December 21st of 1949. So we'll go ahead and we'll listen, and then we'll come back.
My name's Regan. I work for Anthony J. Lyon, International Detective Bureau. They call me the Lion's Eye.
Wednesday at 9, and CBS brings you Jeff Regan, Investigator, starring Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. So stand by for mystery and suspense and adventure in tonight's story of Some Enchanted Carhop.
It was just an ordinary drive-in hamburger joint on Vermont off Sunset, but they called it Hamburger Heaven. And just to carry out the idea, they'd hired 6 angels to wait on cars. 3 blondes, a redhead, and 2 brunettes. I was lucky. I drew the redhead. Only she didn't serve up what I ordered. All she brought me was trouble. The whole thing started when there were only 8 more shopping days until Christmas. I fought my way through the necktie and socks set, and by the time I reached the office, I was ready to start celebrating New Year's. But my boss, the Lion, had other ideas. When I walked in, all 280 pounds of him was up on an office stool. He was tacking a dried-up sprig of mistletoe over the door.
Jeffrey, my boy, come in. The festive season is at hand.
How's that again?
I said the festive season is at hand. I'm filled overflowing with the Yuletide spirit.
Yeah? Well, you better take those nails out of your teeth before you spring a leak.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I guess you're right, my boy. I got carried away.
Yeah, sure. You and Tiny Tim. We're expecting women clients?
Women clients? Oh, you mean the mistletoe. Well, Jeffrey, you never can tell when a sweet young thing might accidentally happen in.
Stop drooling, Fatso. You dropped out of a mistletoe set 50 pounds ago.
Well, maybe so, but I still believe in Santa Claus. Yeah. Now, where was I?
You were up on the stool with berries in your hair.
No, I mean about the new client. What have I told you so far?
That the festive season is at hand?
Huh? Oh, then I haven't told you about our new client. His name is Ward Hamilton, Jeffrey. He was in just a few minutes ago. Fine figure of a man. Well-dressed, distinguished, prosperous.
That explains the Christmas spirit. How much?
Jeffrey, The Christmas spirit cannot be measured in terms of money. This is the time of goodwill toward men of unselfish devotion.
Sure. How much unselfish devotion did he buy?
$50 worth. It's something about his niece or daughter or some friend or something.
What about them?
Well, it seems this girl's been receiving packages, flowers, candy, that sort of thing.
Well, what's so mysterious about that? Doesn't she know it's Christmas?
Well, for some reason or other, Ward Hamilton says she's worried about them. He'll tell you all about it when you see him. The address is on the desk. It's out on Iredell Road in North Hollywood.
So I find the Santa Claus that's been sending the packages.
Say, that's right. This case does fit right in with the season, doesn't it?
Sure. And Merry Christmas to you, too, Fatso. That started it. I hopped in my sleigh and headed my reindeer out over Cahuenga Pass. Iredell Road was twin rows of California bungalows with Christmas decorations strung out in front. All except one house. It was the address Lyon had given me. Redwood front on the usual cream-colored stucco. White ranch-type fence, swimming pool in the backyard. No Christmas anywhere. Behind the fence, a big Dalmatian wagged his tail and grinned at me in a nice, friendly sort of way. Only he was growling when he did it. I circled wide and made the porch, but I didn't get as far as the doorbell.
What do you want?
Mr. Hamilton? I'm Regan, International.
Regan? Oh, yes, the detective. Come in, Mr. Regan, come in.
He was big and gray-haired, the man of distinction. But what he had in his hand wasn't a glass. It was a whip. Black, 10 feet long, with lead weights at the tip.
In here. I appreciate your coming right out, Mr. Regan. I like to get prompt action.
Is that what you used that for?
Well, oh, the whip. No, just a hobby of mine. I practice hitting toy ducks floating at the swimming pool.
Oh, nice way to get use out of your pool during the winter season.
Well, yes. Never mind that. Sit down, Mr. Regan. I want to tell you about Mary.
That's the niece.
Niece? No relation. I'm a close friend of her family's. Her parents died several years ago. There was no one else, so I've tried to take over the reins and help the girl along. It hasn't been easy.
She isn't broken to harness.
It's a nice metaphor, but it doesn't fit. Not at all. Mary Winter is a strange girl. Very strange.
She's the shy, retiring type.
Ah, I see. The detective training. You're thinking ahead, assuming that she's not attractive to men. Nothing could be further from the truth. She's a lovely girl. Very lovely. Auburn hair, green eyes, fine, firm, youthful figure. Desirable is the word, Mr. Regan. Desirable. You understand what I mean?
You make it pretty clear. So, that brings us to the anonymous packages.
For almost 6 weeks, someone has been sending Mary gifts. Almost every day. Flowers, candy, novelties, that sort of thing. No name, no indication where they come from.
Mary has no idea either?
No. But she's reacted to them badly. They're making her nervous, upset. There's something I can't afford to have happen.
Come again?
Mr. Regan, I can observe that there's little use in trying to keep anything back from you. My interest in the package matter is because of money.
Now the story begins to make sense.
Mary is strange. Perhaps I should have said peculiar. Her aversion to men is almost, well, I've been sending her to a Mr. Farthing, a human relations counselor.
A psychologist?
Something like that.
And it costs money?
Yes, it costs money. The more delay in cure, the more it costs. Frankly, Mr. Regan, I'm tired of the obligation.
She work?
Yes. She works at one of those drive-in stands. Carhop.
Something wrong with that?
The place is called Hamburger Heaven, Mr. Regan.
And you want me to find the guy who sends the packages so he'll marry her, or so you can get rid of him?
It works the same either way. You'll take the job, Mr. Regan?
Sure. I'll find your guy. Maybe he'll look good under your Christmas tree. Ward Hamilton gave me the girl's address in Hollywood. It was a tired stucco 4-flat just off Kingsley, the home of Mary Winter, the girl who hated men. And then it was too easy. Standing out front near the curb was a little man in a trench coat. He carried an umbrella over his arm, and he paced up and down, watching the apartment. That was too good a bet to pass up. You going somewhere?
I beg your pardon?
Someone you know lives in there?
Why? Why, that's none of your business, sir.
The name of the friend wouldn't be Mary Winter.
Get out of my way.
That's what I thought. Hold it.
Let go of my arm. Let go, I say.
Why are you watching Mary Winter's apartment?
I warned you. Let go. Let
Answer
go.
me.
Very well. I'll answer you.
The umbrella in his hand came down on my wrists, and he broke for the corner. By the time I turned, he was out of sight. On the ground, broken, was the little man's umbrella. I picked it up. Real break. Name engraved on the handle. In nice big gold letters, it said, Smith. I headed for Mary Winter's apartment. I knocked, and nothing happened. Knocked again. The radio in the room told me somebody was in and liked their music loud. I tried the door, and it worked. I stuck my head in to look around. A redhead came in from another room, in slacks and halter. She saw me. She dived for the closet and came out wearing a coat. Then she snapped off the radio.
Get out of here!
Look, I tried knocking, but...
Get out before I call the police!
The name's Regan. Ward Hamilton sent me.
You're lying. You're trying to trick me.
Phone him. He'll tell you.
What do you want?
About the presents you've been getting. Tell me.
I'm not sure. I can't trust you.
Well, look, for the last time, I'm supposed to find out who's sending them. Either you help or you don't. Now, take your choice.
All right. I'll listen. But don't you come a step closer.
I sat down. One corner of the room. Redhead, other corner. She was tall, graceful, beautiful. Everything a guy could want. Except for the look in her eyes. Scared. Hunted. I waited for her to start it.
They began several weeks ago. The presents. I don't know who is sending them or why, but
Any card? Identification?
No, nothing.
You sure?
You think I'd accept gifts from a stranger?
Take it easy. Nobody said that. What did Farthing tell you?
Farthing?
This human relations counselor you go to.
Oh, you know about that?
Yeah, I know about that. What'd he say?
That I shouldn't worry. That I should find out.
That all?
Oh, you don't understand. You're like all of them. Get out of here!
One question. Do you know a little guy about 30 carries an umbrella, wears a trench coat, shy?
No.
Are you sure? Think. A little guy.
No, I don't know him. I've never met him in my life. Get out!
I left the redhead sobbing softly to herself. Maybe a lot of flowers and candy would be kind of nice to a lot of people during Christmas, but not to Mary Winter. She was mixed up, inside and out. I headed back to my car, and then I was mixed up. It had looked easy until I got to my car. That's when I got complications. A big complication. Fat, 40, with a gun.
Get in, Shamus.
Now what?
Your choice, Shamus.
Like what?
The Winter Dame,
Your property?
Not my type.
Belong to the boss?
Question, Shamus,
Beat it, will you?
I'm not through with you.
Okay, get through.
Stay away from Mary Winter or you get trouble. Real bad trouble. Any questions now, Shamus?
Yeah. Who pays you?
You shouldn't have asked that question.
It looked like it was going to be a real holiday season. Brotherly love all over the place. The next stop was a man named Mr. Farthing. Only the sign on the door said John J. Farthing, Human Relations Counselor. It was a plush layout. Waiting room the size of a box top. Rich, solid, lined with deep green leather chairs, brass studs. On the wall, Van Gogh, Gauguin, that kind of stuff. The receptionist was out, and I took a crack at the thick mahogany door.
Yes, come in, please. What may I do for you, sir?
The name's Regan, international detective.
Oh, sit down, Mr. Regan. Now, is something troubling you?
Girl named Winter. Mary Winter.
Go on, Mr. Regan.
She's a patient of yours?
Why do you ask?
A couple of questions about her.
I see.
Since you know her background, I thought you could fill me in on a few things. I said
I heard you, Mr. Regan.
Well?
Perhaps, sir, you're aware of the nature of my work. Since I assume you're an intelligent man, I don't believe it's necessary to be much more explicit than that.
Try it for size.
Very well. Cigarette, Mr. Regan?
Thanks.
There is in existence a code of ethics. Some practitioners call it the Hippocratic Oath. I'm not a doctor, as you know, yet I, too, Mr. Regan, have a moral code.
I'm listening.
Nothing in my code, either morally, ethically, or in any other way, allows me to discuss the affairs of my patients. Is that clear?
Yeah. That's clear.
I'm sorry I can't assist you in whatever it is you're trying to do, Mr. Regan. I'd like to help, but as you see, my hands are tied.
That makes two of us. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Mr. Farthing, gray suit, ivory cigarette holder, and gold cufflinks, stood up and shook hands solemnly. I left. He'd given me nothing. There was only one thing wrong with that. Mr. Farthing was right. I decided to check in with my boss, Anthony J. Lyon.
The International Detective Agency, Anthony.
Save it for the customers, Fatso.
Jeffrey, where have you been?
Look, I just started this business 2 hours ago. What's eating you?
Just this. I have here in my office with me a young man. He has an interesting story, Jeffrey. It seems he's been sending gifts to one Mary Winter.
What?
That's correct, Regan, the man you're supposed to be looking for. Well, don't just stand there. Get over here at once. This young man can't wait all day for lazy detectives. And besides, he needs help.
He needs help.
Yeah, that's right, Jeffrey. The man you were supposed to find. His life's in danger.
This is CBS, and you're listening to Jeff Regan, investigator, in tonight's adventure, Some Enchanted Carhop.
It started when a guy named Ward Hamilton hired the Lion and me to find out who was sending packages to a Carhop named Mary Winter. I met a little guy with an umbrella and a big guy with a gun, and a human relations counselor who called himself Mr. Farthing. Then I phoned my boss, Anthony J. Lyon, and found the mysterious Santa Claus who'd been sending the girl gifts had walked right into our office. When I got there, I found the Lion sitting with his fingertips touching as he talked to the man across the desk from him. Like I guessed, it was the same guy I'd seen outside Mary Winter's apartment. The little guy, 30, trench coat, and nervous.
Jeffrey, come in. I want you to meet our new client, Mr. Smith. Mr. Ernest Smith. He's in trouble.
Well, if he isn't, he should be.
Jeffrey, what on earth do you mean?
I found your Mr. Smith outside the girl's apartment. He wasn't looking for frost on those windows.
Oh, no, Mr. Regan. That's...
What Mr. Smith is trying to say, Jeffrey, is that that's not true. Mr. Smith is in real trouble.
You sell it to him?
Jeffrey, how can you say such a thing? Mr. Smith feels his life is in danger, hence he has retained us to act in his behalf.
That's true, Mr. Regan. I'll admit I sent the gifts to Miss Winter. I didn't realize, I didn't know...
Get to the point.
Now I'm afraid. Since I saw you this afternoon, someone's following me.
Fat guy, big coat.
Yes. I came here for help. Someone doesn't like my sending the gifts.
Well, that's real bright. Well, you can start with Mary Winter.
She doesn't like them, Mr. Regan?
Then there's a guy named Hamilton.
She's married?
We call him the Guardian, family friend.
Oh.
Finish your story.
I like Miss Winter. I wanted to do something for her.
So you've been sending her anonymous presents for almost 6 weeks. Isn't that carrying the Christmas spirit too far?
Well, I like her. That's not abnormal, is it, Mr. Regan?
Of course not, Mr. Smith.
You keep out of this, Fatso.
Yeah, but Jeffrey, our client...
We got another client named Hamilton, remember? Besides, you haven't met the girl.
Neither have I.
What?
I've never met Mary Winter. Is that abnormal, Mr. Regan? Oh, dear. Dear, perhaps I'm sicker than Mr. Farthing told me.
Say that again?
Mr. Farthing, my human relations counselor, he takes care of me.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe this is going to add up. You've never met Mary Winter?
No.
No, but you've seen her. You've seen her in the waiting room of Farthing's office.
Why, Mr. Regan, how on earth did you guess? That's exactly it. She was reading a copy of Reader's Digest, and I was reading an old National Geographic. It was a fall
Never
day.
mind. Well, Lyon, I think that wraps that up.
Jeffrey, what do you mean?
Mary Winter is afraid of unknown guy sending packages. Unknown guy turns out to be Smith. Take Smith to Mary, show her he's harmless. Collect our fee.
Yeah, but Jeffrey, what about Mr. Smith? What about the man who's following him?
Maybe he just imagined it. Come on, Smith. We're going to visit a redhead. The Lion didn't believe Smith imagined it any more than I did. But he only sputtered, and I loaded Smith into the car and headed out to Mary Winter's apartment. It looked simple. Then, like a glass of mild eggnog. What I didn't know was that somebody had slipped me a zombie. It was turning dark when we pulled up in front of the place. Smith stayed at my heels like a sheepdog. I knocked. This time she opened the door.
Oh, Mr. Regan, what are you doing here?
Brought your Christmas present. Only this one's harmless.
Oh, no.
Take it easy, sweetheart. Just a guy named Smith. You might even like him.
No, please go away. Please go away.
Smith and I walked on in, and Mary backed into a chair in the far corner of the room. She and Smith looked at each other and didn't say anything, so I waited for the sparks to die out of her eyes. But they didn't. There was something else on her mind.
This is the man who sent the packages.
You guessed it. Smith, Mary Winter. Mary Winter, Smith.
Get him out of here!
Huh?
I said get him out of here before he kills me!
Oh, no.
Sit down. Now, just a minute, lady. He won't hurt anybody. Just take it easy, will you? Just take quiet.
That's what you're saying.
Oh, no,
Now, listen, sweetheart. Wait a minute. It's Christmas. You've heard of that, I think, haven't you? People send presents to each other because it makes them feel good. Now, Smith sent you presents for the same reason.
He's going to kill me. You're like he is, trying to trap me.
Oh, that does it.
All right. Look at this.
What, a card?
It came in a box of flowers. It was delivered here to my apartment tonight.
Each man kills the thing he loves.
Well, Regan, try and explain that. Try and
Shut up. Did you send this, Smith?
No, Mr. Regan. I didn't send it. I sent flowers and candy and nice things.
Mr. Regan, at the window!
I left them with their mouths open and ran for the hall, and then outside. The girl may have had an overworked imagination, but her mind didn't knock over that garbage can. It was dark and peaceful and still outside. Me and a half moon and nobody else. And then I saw him, thick-set, crouched, moving away from the window. I dove after him. We went down together as his hand came out of his pocket. A heavy gray .45 got itself in my direction, and I grabbed at the wrist behind him. The gun fell into the rose bush, but he got to his feet.
I warned you once, Shamus. Stay away from that girl.
Who said so?
Never mind that now. Get off the case now, before it's too late. It'll only mean... No!
Were you going to say trouble? The big guy was 200 pounds of unconscious as I bent over him. A heavy camel hair coat was wrapped around him. The same guy I'd seen before. I unbuttoned the coat, figuring some identification might help, only when it came open, I didn't need any more. He was wearing a tailored starched jacket. It wasn't the kind you see every day. It was white. That gave me the lead I needed, and I headed fast for my car. 10 minutes later, I stopped at the drugstore on my way out to the valley. I phoned the Lyon and told him to check on Farthing. Then I headed the car out Cahuenga. The pass was crowded with home-from-work traffic. It took me 25 minutes to make Iredell Road and the home of Ward Hamilton. This time the Dalmatian was out for the night. But Ward Hamilton wasn't. He opened the door.
Well, Mr. Regan, come in. You work late.
Our time clock's out of order.
Oh, perhaps you'd like one for Christmas.
No, thanks. Wouldn't fit in my sock.
Well, Mr. Regan, I take it by this visit that you have good news for me.
Call it that.
You know who's been sending the girl those gifts?
A guy named Smith.
How's that again?
Smith, Ernest Smith. His birth certificate says.
I'm afraid I've never heard of him, Mr. Regan.
He saw Mary in the waiting room of Farthing's office. Never met her. Shy little guy.
Well, now isn't that something? Well, I must say, Mr. Regan, you did a remarkably fast job.
There's something else you ought to know, Hamilton. Chances are Farthing's a phony.
Mr. Farthing?
Looks like.
Why, it seems absurd.
Thought I'd let you know. Want me to go on with the case?
What do you mean, Mr. Regan?
I found your guy, Smith. That's what you hired me for. And when I get to Farthing, he'll sing like a prima donna.
Sing?
Talk.
Well, then keep going.
Okay, Hamilton. It's your money.
It's your life, Mr. Regan. Be careful.
I made a fast phone call to the Lyon on my way back into town, and that tied it up. Farthing was working late when I got there, only when he looked up and saw me, he wasn't happy.
What do you want?
Conversation, a lot of it.
Mr. Regan, I must ask why you've come to my office at this hour.
I told you, for conversation.
Then I may regard this whole thing as a sort of joke?
Maybe. Only the laughs you'll get wouldn't get by even on television.
I demand an explanation of your attitude.
Fair enough. Start with your name. Not Farthing, it's Farnham, Howard Farnham. You want more?
Where did you get that?
I had a phone conversation with my boss. He's got ways of getting things. Like your record. 5 arrest bunco, 1 arrest forgery, 1 arrest fraud.
No convictions.
You were lucky. Maybe you won't be this time.
You haven't got anything on me, Regan?
How about blackmail?
Not a chance.
Maybe not yet. Only you were getting set for a job. I believe the guy's name was Hamilton.
You can't prove it.
Well, it was your mug, the big guy in the white jacket. He meant business. Does he do your legwork?
Listen, Regan, you can't pin blackmail on me. Sure, maybe I had ideas, but I don't claim I'm a doctor. I don't hand out any pills. Just advice, Regan. That's all, just advice.
That's too bad. You know, there are a lot of people that take phonies like you seriously, Farnham. A lot of people that could use advice. Real advice.
Mine's real. They say, should I marry him? And I say yes or no, depending...
On how much there is in it for you.
What do you want from me, Regan?
Who paid you to put the B on Mary Winter?
Never mind, Farthing. You won't have to answer that.
Come on in, Hamilton. I've been waiting for you.
You're bragging, Mr. Regan.
It made sense if I could get you to join Farthing and me. You might have something to say. You're showing up. Check my story.
What story?
Like this. A man named Hamilton's supposed to look out for a young redhead named Mary Winter. Only Hamilton takes one look at this number and suddenly he's not fatherly anymore. He decides to move in for himself.
It's absurd.
Is it? You convinced the girl she couldn't trust any man in the world but you. Should have been the other way around. You're the one she couldn't trust. Isn't that right, Farthing?
Leave me out of this, Regan. I run a legitimate business.
Leave you out? Well, that wouldn't be fair. You were the guy Hamilton came to with money. He paid you to tell Mary Winter who was the man for her. Am I right, Farthing?
You're lying, Regan.
No, I'm not. Everything worked fine until along came a nice, shy little guy with an umbrella, Mr. Smith. Met Mary in Farthing's waiting room, starting sending her presents. You know, that must have really stopped you, Hamilton, trying to figure out who was cutting in on your Romeo act.
Regan, I've had enough out of you. I thought you were getting nosy.
You hired me to find the guy, and I did. End of story. Except if anybody should happen to tell Mary Winter what kind of a guy you really are, Hamilton, you might suddenly find yourself out of a lifetime career.
You'll never tell her, Regan. I'll see to that.
Forget one item. For a last touch, you send Mary a threatening note. Really put the pressure on. You're washed up, Hamilton.
This revolver says I'm not, Mr. Regan. Farthing, come over here, out of the way. We're going to take care of Mr. Regan.
Self-defense, not a chance with Farthing's record. Am I right, Farnham?
Do as I say, Farthing.
Go ahead, Farnham, go ahead. Murder will look good on your list.
I won't play ball, Hamilton. I told the girl what you wanted, but I'm not in this. It's your fight.
I can make it yours.
Don't try it.
I am as good with this gun, gentlemen, as I am with a whip.
Farnham, watch out! Farnham ducked as I hit Hamilton's wrist. The bullet buried itself in the desktop, and the gun hit the floor. I got the gun as Hamilton moved in fast. Only what he got for his trouble was the barrel across his head. Farnham crawled up to his chair and sat down, puffing. I let him catch his breath. And when I waved the gun in his direction, he didn't mind phoning the police. The heavy guy in the white jacket showed up bright and early for work the next morning, and the cop greeted him with a pair of handcuffs. He got off with assault and battery, and Farnham, alias Farthing, made the blotter for a light charge. Hamilton wasn't that lucky. His read assault with intent to kill. It was noon when I got to the Lyon's office. He was admiring the Christmas tree stuck in the corner. And from the sounds that came out of his mouth, it looked like his holiday fever was becoming serious.
Nowhere. Born is the king of... Oh, hello, Jeffrey.
They're looking for a replacement for Vaughn Monroe?
Jeffrey, how unkind. It's the season for songs. Sunday is Christmas, my boy.
And today is payday.
So it is. Well, perhaps I could manage a small token, a sign of my gratitude.
Thanks.
Yeah, by the way, what about Mary Winter, the Carhop? How is the girl, Jeffrey?
Oh, I left her with Smith last night when I went after Farthing's mug.
Jeffrey, you didn't. Alone together? And that girl hating all men, and that boy shy, backwards? Jeffrey, how could you? How cruel.
It's too late now, Lyon. Maybe we'll read about it in the afternoon paper.
Double murder.
Double hamburger.
What did you say?
I drove by Mary's drive-in this morning. There was a car parked there.
Jeffrey, you mean...
Little guy behind the wheel, trench coat, umbrella. He looked an awful lot like our boy Smith.
Then you talked to them?
For a minute.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Tell me, Jeffrey, tell me. What did Mary say?
She said, with or without onions. Merry Christmas, Lyon.
Merry Christmas, Jeffrey.
Jeff Regan, Investigator, is written by William Frug and William Fifield, produced by Sterling Tracy, directed by Gordon T. Hughes, and stars Frank Graham as Regan with Frank Nelson as Anthony J. Lyon. Original music is by Dick Arant. Jeff Regan, Investigator, is heard each week at the same time over CBS. Bob Stevenson speaking and inviting you to be with us again next week at this same time for Jeff Regan, Investigator. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. When I first listened to this show, which was just the day I was recording it, I wasn't expecting a Christmas episode, just not something I associated with Jeff Regan. I might have arranged the schedule differently because I tend to like to do Christmas shows around Christmas. There's not a whole lot, having started the Jeff Regan show when I did, because we're going to be done well before Christmas. With this show, so not a whole lot I could do with the order anyway at this point. But a kind of a happy ending on Jeff Regan, which is a bit of a rarity. And though a well-told case and nice flexibility to be able to do a Christmas show. And by the way, we should talk about the writers here. The big one is William Frug. William Fifield, Radio Gold Index, records a total of 8 credits. But Frug actually wrote on quite a few shows, including Rocky Jordan. In television, he became a writer, a producer, was a producer on Bewitched, Gilligan's Island, Twilight Zone, Sam Benedict, and Adventures in Paradise, among others. And did some writing for Charlie's Angels and Quincy, among a lot of others. So was a pretty prominent writer, recognized by the Writers Guild of America. So that's your writer, William Frug. Now we're going to go ahead and we will play the voicemail from Danny.
Hi, Adam. This is Danny, and I just wanted to call and say how much I love your show. I downloaded the app for the first time for my iPhone when I was on the way home. I had a 7-hour drive from Georgia to Florida, and I was so bored. And I downloaded it, and immediately I loved it. Now I listen to it all the time, and I just wanted to say thanks for putting it on. It helps me pass a lot of hours. All right.
Thank you so much, and glad we could keep you entertained on that trip, and definitely appreciate you listening out there. And that's actually about the perfect length for voicemail, 30 seconds. In the past, I've commented about copyright owners maintaining the copyright to their classic TV shows, but never actually making them available to anybody. Well, there's one last show in that category in the detective genre, Johnny Staccato, a 1959 detective show, is actually going to be released on DVD, and I made a post about that on greatdetectives.net. Levon Dunaway writes in, says, this is very good news indeed. Somewhere in the past, I've seen an episode 2. I love this stuff. Can't get enough. And indeed, I definitely want to make people aware of that. That's coming out actually on my birthday, October 12th. So it'll definitely be interesting to have another show that's been made available to people. And one last comment from Podcast Alley. Love those old radio shows. Well, thank you. And that'll wrap it up for today. We'll have another show to discuss, and for those of you who have the app or signed up for a premium site, you'll have another free show to take a listen to in just a moment. But before we do get started with today's show, I want to let you know about our sponsor. I recommend GoToMeeting because web conferencing lets you get together globally by allowing you to meet online to present, demonstrate, or collaborate in real time. It can reduce your meeting-related expenses as well as those that go into the overhead related to meeting materials. And you can call in via phone or your computer to actually have voice conversation in your meetings. GoToMeeting is brought to you by Citrix, and it's easy to use and affordable. Listeners can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For the special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com/podcast. That's GoToMeeting.com/podcast. Now let's get into today's episode of Let George Do It, Journey into Hate.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Journey into Hate, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice. Danger's my stock and trade. If you're in a jam, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, some dreadful shadow has come over my sister's life. From thousands of miles away, she cries for help. If you knew me, you'd understand how little help I can be, alone. I'm turning to you because I can't think of anyone else. The trip will take a great deal of your time.
A great deal of your time and may even prove fruitless. But I can assure you I'll make it worth your while. And it's signed, Janice Gibson.
I wonder what kind of letters we'd get, Angel, if our ad didn't say write full details.
Oh, I'd hate to think probably communiques in Morse code. But Janice here doesn't sound like she's in a mental state for details.
Here, let me see that letter.
Here.
Maybe I can get something out of her over the phone.
Thousands of miles away. Wonder in what direction. Do I wear an Eskimo parka or just a thin coat of suntan lotion?
Hello. Janice Gibson, please. Miss Gibson? This is George Valentine. Well, say now, wait a minute. Don't get so excited. Uh-huh. Leave on the Eudora. Now, have a heart. I have a business here. I can't just throw things in a knapsack and be off to Honolulu.
Honolulu? George, I know where we can get a very big knapsack.
Hold on, will you, Brooksy? Miss Gibson, I'm afraid it's out of the question. You see, Yeah, well, all right, now. Well, okay, there's no need to cry. Yes, I believe everything you say about your sister, but... All right, you win, Miss Gibson. I'll be there.
Darling, don't you think you ought to warn the lady?
Oh, yeah. One last thing, Miss Gibson. Better reserve 2 cabins. My assistant will be along. No, I won't disappoint you. Yes, I got it. Pier 17. Goodbye. Hey, Brooksy, where are you going?
Well, don't be masculine, darling. If we're going to be leaving in a few days, I've got to get some shopping done.
Oh, no, I'm afraid this is really going to be a knapsack deal.
Huh?
Yeah. The Eudora leaves at 11 o'clock tonight. Oh, Stewart.
Yes, sir?
Which way is stateroom 209?
Straight down that corridor, sir.
It's going to take an ocean voyage to rest up after this mad rush.
Just 1 minute, sir.
Yeah?
I'm the ship's doctor, sir. I just heard you ask about 209. Friends of Miss Gibson's?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Why, is anything wrong?
Well, thank heavens she has friends aboard. Here, this way. Miss Gibson isn't very well.
Well, I know. She sounded a little hysterical on the phone today, but
Emotional strain may have something to do with it, but I suppose you know she has heart trouble.
No, we didn't.
I gave her something to quiet her down. When I came back later, she was in there sobbing. She wouldn't open the door. I had to go and get the key.
Oh, that's dreadful.
Oh, now, Miss Gibson, try to pull yourself together. Your friends are here to see you.
Friends? Oh, Mr. Valentine.
Sure. We made a deal, didn't we?
Oh, it was getting late. I was so frightened. I thought you'd changed your mind.
Well, we're here now, and there's nothing to worry about. I'm Miss Brooks.
Oh, I'll be all right now, Doctor.
I'm sure you will. I'll arrange with a doctor in Honolulu to keep track of you. See that you're sure to get digitalis whenever you need it.
Thank you.
And mind you, young lady, I don't want any more emotional shenanigans from you.
I've made arrangements for both of you, Mr. Valentine. You just have to see the purser.
Well, never mind that now. You feel up to talking?
Oh, I must explain.
Okay. Suppose we begin with your sister.
Oh, yes, Eileen's cablegram, it's somewhere here. Yes, in my purse.
Oh, don't get up. It's right here on the table.
Eileen is my twin sister. We haven't seen each other in 4 years.
I see.
She went on a holiday to Hawaii and married an artist named Marcel Millet. They bought a tiny island not far from Honolulu, and they've lived there ever since.
I think this is the case.
Well, let's see, Brooksy. This must be our secret, Janice, because I'm not sure this horrible thing has happened to me. And if it is, I couldn't bear anyone else knowing it. Please get here quickly. You're my only salvation. Love, Eileen.
I haven't told anyone else but you, and I had to do that if I'm going to help her.
Yes, we understand.
Well, I'm not going to pretend I understand this message. Now, suppose we skip on to your sister's husband.
Well, I've never even seen a picture of Marcel. I've often wondered why she never sent me one, but as long as Eileen sounded happy in her letters, that was all that mattered. And then this cable, it's so strange, and it's not like Eileen. She was always the strong one, never hysterical.
Well, now, Janice, I think maybe you ought to rest.
People always wondered about that difference in us, since we are identical twins. Oh, Mr. Valentine.
Okay. We'll have days to talk about all this. Good night, Janice.
Why Eileen isn't here, Mr. Valentine. I cabled her that I'd arrive on the Eudora. Eileen's usually so punctual.
Now it would take a magician to spot us in this crowd. Come on, let's go down to the end of the dock.
Here, hold on to me, Janice.
Johnny! Oh, God. There you are.
What? I beg your pardon.
Well, you might at least kiss me.
Please, no.
Hey, now, wait a minute, Buster.
Well, you needn't look so shocked, Jenny. I know I'm not the handsome specimen you probably expected, but you might try to bring yourself to kiss your brother-in-law.
Phil?
What's that?
Don't be so taken aback, my dear. After a while, people get used to ugliness, especially when they realize that very often it has compensating qualities, huh?
Oh, I didn't mean...
I know what you meant, but it doesn't matter. I must say it was the easiest thing for me to spot you. You look exactly like Eileen. It's uncanny. Now, come along. I'll have someone take care of your baggage. Huh?
I hope you don't mind, Marcel, but I brought 2 friends along.
You, Oh, these people, your friends.
Mr. Valentine, Miss Brooks, I want you to meet Marcel Millet, Eileen's husband.
Hello.
How do you do?
I understand you and your wife have a whole island to yourselves. Hope there's room enough to fit us on.
Well, we weren't expecting visitors, but we'll make out somehow. Besides, as an artist, I'm grateful to have beauty around me. Welcome to Hawaii, Miss Brooks.
Why, thank you.
Oh, wait, there's a Filipino chap over there who takes pictures of tourists. I'm sure Eileen would love to have one of you and me, Janice, huh? A memento of this happy occasion. Oh, Juan! Over here, quickly.
Where is Eileen? How is she?
Oh, she's waiting for you on the island. Wants everything to be Just right for a
Very
sister.
nice picture, yes, sir. How many, please, Mr. Millet?
Oh, half a dozen. One, just you and I, my dear, huh? Excuse us, Valentine, Miss Brooks.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Very good. All right, you smile nice for one. He make beautiful picture.
And with my arm around a beautiful lady, that makes us even, Juan.
All right, you hold still now. There, oh, that's fine. Very nice there, eh?
Couldn't we hurry, Marcel?
Oh, immediately.
Well done, very soon. You know wait for picture?
No, Juan, my wife and I will be in from the island in a couple of days to show these people the sights. All right, everybody. My car is just over there by the warehouse.
Thank you, Mr. Millet. You must be a happy man today.
Please, you've got to tell me. I can't wait any longer. What's wrong with Eileen?
In time, Janice. Then you can see for yourself.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Why put it off, Marcel? Is it something you can't talk about?
No, but
Janice has a right to know she's been so worried.
Apparently you do know your wife cabled her. You wouldn't be here.
Yes. I ought to know about the cable. I sent it.
You had no right to do that. You made me think all kinds of things.
I had to find some way to bring you here.
Well, couldn't you have used a few more words in your cable to be more specific? You didn't have to indulge your flair for the melodramatic and scare Janice half to death.
Unfortunately, what I said is the truth.
For heaven's sake, what's wrong with her?
Well, at the risk of being melodramatic, my wife imagines things, fanciful, grotesque things.
Oh, no.
And she thinks everyone is plotting against her, just waiting to kill her. She won't see a doctor, and, well, you are my only hope, Janice.
I see.
Yes, now, really, we must be going. As it is, we won't reach the island till after dark. Easy now. You can't see a thing when the landing lights off.
Okay, you better go first, Janice.
All right. Where's that tropical moon people write songs about?
Hiding tonight, Miss Brooks. I think we've got a storm coming out. Now, you just wait till I get on the dock.
Hey.
Oh, it's just an overgrown mongrel Eileen insisted on bringing to the island. Lord knows we don't need any protection. There's just the two of us.
I should say you'd welcome the company.
So I must admit he's devoted to my wife. But I'd prefer if he kept tied up. He's a vicious beast. Oh, the house is right up here.
George!
Oh, now what's wrong with her?
You can't mean that's Eileen.
I think I saw her run around that side of the house.
Well, Marcel, don't just stand there.
Well, if she intends to hide, as she usually does, we'll never find her till morning.
But we've got to do something.
Valentine, there's a flashlight on the porch from the back. You and Miss Brooks can look for her out there near the cliff.
Okay.
You come with me, Janice, huh? But first I want to tie this animal up.
Look, see, no matter what Millet says, the first thing we're going to do is get a light on in that house. Now, you do that, and I'll go around and get the flash.
Oh, couldn't we kind of do those things together?
No time, Angel. I'll make it snappy.
Oh, golly.
You'd better let me light that lamp. You might burn the place. This house is nothing more than an oversized thatch hut anyway. There. You're pretty, aren't you?
Well, who are you?
That's my question to you. Why did Marcel bring you here? Are you one of those simpering ladies he trips off to see now and then?
Get away from me.
You know, he does have a strange fascination, that ugly Casanova. And if I thought you and he
I'd hate to haul off and hit a stranger, but I could force myself.
Better listen to her, sister.
What?
The young lady's quite capable of taking care of herself.
Yeah. Looks as though Marcel's decided to turn this place into a resort.
Now, look, I've been fumbling around in the dark long enough. Since you're not Eileen Millet, who are you? How did you get here?
Miriam Denton's the name. House guest, model. Lately, I've turned into a nurse for Marcel's mad wife. If you want to know anything else about me, ask him.
Well, George, what are we going to do?
Well, right now, Angel, we're going down to the boat landing and get my gun out of the luggage.
George, boat's gone.
I wouldn't mind that so much, Pussy. But that means there's something else missing, too.
Huh?
My gun.
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
This weird little drama calls for us being permanent guests in this tropical paradise.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. You know, in every town, when 5 p.m. rolls around, there's a big parade, a traffic parade of folks who are homeward bound. If you're part of this daily parade, and if your car has so little pep that you have to stay in the creep-along lane, better switch to Chevron Supreme gasoline. It's a high-octane fuel blended to put command performance in your car. You'll find Chevron Supreme commands speedy pickup at every green light, smooth acceleration on the open highway, and all the extra power to make your car great on hills. A premium quality gasoline, it also commands fast starts every time you use the starter. For Chevron Supreme is climate-tailored, tailored to the different altitude and temperature zones between Canada and Mexico. So wherever you drive in the West, rely on Chevron Supreme to give your car command performance. Try a tank full tomorrow at a standard station or an independent Chevron gas station where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. And now, back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. In answer to her twin sister's plea, Janice Gibson comes to you with a strange assignment, namely to travel thousands of miles to a tiny island just off Honolulu. If you have George Valentine's keen instinct, something about the whole journey bothers you. You see how right you were when you arrive at the island. You hear a piercing scream in the night. Janice Gibson's sister disappearing into the jungle.
Can't anyone hear the storm out there? Doesn't anyone care if my sister's out in it?
We all care. Very deeply, Janice. But we'll never find Eileen if she doesn't want to be found, huh?
I'd like to disagree with Millay, Janice, but I'm afraid he's right. You've seen what it's like out there.
Incidentally, Mr. Millay, what happened to the boat? And why did you leave Janice alone?
Yes, you asked me to wait and never came back.
I thought it might be a good idea to circle the island. But don't worry, the boat is quite safe where it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it's well hidden.
What's that? Skip it, Buster.
I'm going to look for her.
Hey, Janice, stop. Listen to me.
No, let go of me.
Brooksy, take her upstairs and stay with her.
Any one of the guest rooms makes no difference.
Come on, honey. You've got to think of yourself, too.
Think of myself.
I've got to get rid of that blasted dog.
What's the matter, Marcel? You seem nervous. You shouldn't be. You've got a gun. My gun, to be exact.
What do you mean?
It's missing from my luggage.
Valentine, I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't like your insinuation.
I'm not insinuating anymore. I'm going to find out the reason for everything that's happened.
There's only one reason. I was at my rope's end. The only person I could think of with Eileen was her sister. Huh? What's happened tonight may have upset you and Miss Brooks, but I did not ask you to share in it.
Now, listen to me, my friend, and listen carefully.
I have no choice. Why don't you hit me?
Don't tempt me. It happens I don't want to bring things to a head because I have my own plans for tomorrow.
Really?
If I made a cup of tea, could I persuade you gentlemen to be civilized?
Use your persuasion on Marcel here, Miss Denton. And while you're at it, you might persuade him not to let those fancy maneuvers with the gun and the boat go to his head.
What are you waiting for?
I didn't expect her to bring those people. It changes our plans.
But he suspects us.
You think I'm a fool? I know that. I've got to have a chance to think.
You wouldn't stop to think if you really loved me. You do, don't you?
What a woman. Love and murder in the same breath. I told you, Miriam, give me a chance to think.
George, did you see Janice this morning?
No, Brooksy, I thought she was still upstairs with you.
Well, I left her for a few minutes, but when I came back, she wasn't there.
Oh, I thought you knew, Mr. Valentine.
You what?
Miss Gibson went out with Marcel. Naturally, she's anxious to find her sister.
Well, isn't that something we were all going to do together?
I didn't know what your plans were.
Not much you didn't. You know darn well...
Brooksy, come on.
Oh. Hey, George.
What? Now, easy. What's the matter, fella? What's bothering you? Easy, boy. Well, we're going to go for a little walk.
What are you talking about, George?
Just what I said, Angel. Wait a minute. Hey, fella, take a whiff of this.
What have you got there, George?
One of Eileen's handkerchiefs. Yeah, and I think our canine friend here knows what I mean. Come on, boy. Now we can go for that walk.
George, keeps coming back to this spot.
Yeah, I know.
But there's nothing here but the beach.
Wait a minute, hold it. There seems to be some kind of a cave in the side of this dune.
Yeah, that's where he wants to go. Look at it.
Here, hold him, Angel.
Okay.
While I see if I can tear away some of these vines.
George, I don't know if I can hold it.
It'll just be a minute. I want to see if...
What is it?
Oh, good Lord. No, Brooksy, stay where you are.
Yeah, if this dog will only let me...
Give him, I'll take him. But don't go in there.
George, is it...
Eileen. A bullet in her head.
Oh, no. But, George, last night she was alive, all somewhere by herself. Nobody could even find her.
That's where we were all wrong. Last night, Eileen was already dead.
But we heard her scream.
That was Miriam who put on that little act. She was also the shadow we saw disappear around the side of the house.
Oh. Well, what does Marcel expect to gain by all this?
He's probably turning that over in his mind right now. And that's why we have to find him and Janice before he has a chance to make another move.
Seems so useless, George. There are so many places on this island he could have taken Janice.
Well, there's only one thing in our favor, Brooksy. Marcel has to make this piece of mayhem look like an accident. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, I know. Keep saying.
Easy now, quiet, fella. Don't you see, Brooksy, he intends to pass Janice off as Eileen. He did it very successfully yesterday. That photographer took it for granted Janice was his wife.
Uh-huh. Well, I can see how he could have given everybody that impression.
Yeah, the loving couple returned to the island. Wife has an unfortunate accident. He can report it as such to the police and collect the insurance because there's no sign of violence. Something he couldn't do with Eileen, who sports a prominent bullet hole. Wonder what's eating him.
George! Hey, up there on that cliff.
Yeah, Brooksy, come on.
Oh, he's going to kill me! Oh, golly, George!
Okay, Malay. See if you got an answer for this. All right, fella, go get him.
Yes, I've got an answer. I've been waiting a long time to do this.
Oh, no. There, Jenny. Come down here.
He's gone mad. He's gone hollow. Mr. Rose.
Here, Brooksy, take care of him. Okay. I want to see what he intends to do next.
Claire, he told me about Eileen.
Yes, I know, honey.
He was going to push me into the ocean. Make it look like an accident.
Hey, wait a while. The three of you.
You're riding for a fall, Buster.
You make another move toward me, and I'll let the women have it first. You know I have no compunction about it either.
Yeah, I know. You're a brave boy when it comes to shooting dogs and women.
Keep him away from me. Oh, please.
Don't, Thomas, don't.
Once more, your intrusion interfere with my plans, Valentine.
It breaks my heart.
I suppose the best way to do it, after all, is to get rid of the three of you at once. I think we're going to have another little storm tonight. It's the time of year, you know.
We can do without the weather report.
Oh, yes. The story will go something like this. Despite my urgent pleas, the three of you insisted on taking the boat out into the storm.
Aren't you satisfied you killed my sister? What else do you want?
Of course, I shall be interested in recovering the body of only one of the foolhardy trio. The one the police will accept as my late, beloved wife.
Doesn't Miriam Denton understand that she may be next on your list someday? What does she see in you anyway?
She sees in me a man who won't let anything stand between him and his dream. Now, let's go back to the house and make the best of this waiting.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Marcel, get this over with.
In a few minutes, I think we can be ready. Of course, Valentine. I shall have to shoot you and Miss Brooks. I couldn't expect you to jump into the water at my command, eh?
Why don't you stop posturing?
No, let him go on, Miriam. He just wants to show you how much power he has. All because he didn't turn out to be a Clark Gable.
Shut up, Valentine. I'm as good as any man. Better.
You're not a man. You're something that crawls.
I'm something that uses his brain, Miss Brooks. Since no one knows Janice is here, the insurance company will have a question a routine police report on my wife's death. We'll be able to do a lot of things with $50,000. Won't we, Miriam?
Yes, if you'll only stop talking.
I'm not afraid anymore. I'm just sorry I got you and Claire into this thing.
So glad to see you take this philosophically, Janice.
I doubt if I would have had many more years to live anyway. She kept telling me it could be.
Don't say any more, Janice.
Why do you stop her? What was she going to say?
She was just going to crack a very grim joke, Marcel. And it happens to be on you.
What do you mean? And don't get up. Stay where you are.
No, I feel like walking around.
You know what I'll do if I try...
You're not going to do anything. What's more, you're not going to live to spend that $50,000.
Be careful, Marcel.
Something's happened in the last 4 years that you don't know anything about. Something that's going to hang a crepe on that rosy future of yours.
You don't say.
Yeah. Janice has been ill, very ill, under constant care of a doctor.
What's that to do with me? Now, let's get started. Come on.
Andre Boyard, M.D.
What?
Uh-huh. I thought you'd recognize the name. Dr. Boyard. The best heart specialist in Honolulu.
Of course. The one the ship's doctor mentioned.
What is this?
He more than mentioned him, Marcel. He gave the doctor specific instructions to locate Janice. Very soon now, he'll do just that.
You're lying.
And the picture you were so anxious to have taken, it'll only prove that it was Eileen's twin sister who arrived.
Miriam, you heard what he said. Look at Janice. There's nothing wrong with her, is there? Is there?
Marcel!
You're as good as cook, brother, and you did it yourself.
No.
Watch out for him!
Let go! Don't let me break your arm. Let go of the gun.
I got it, George.
Yeah. Well, Marcel, what is it now that stands between the man and his dream? Hey, look, Brooksy, why the purser's office?
Oh, I told you. A friend of mine wanted me to inquire about a honeymoon cruise on the Eudora.
Honeymoon cruise, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Friend, huh? What friend?
Oh, you wouldn't know him. But he has nice, broad shoulders. Just about your height.
Uh-huh.
And he calls his girlfriend Angel.
One of those gooey characters, huh?
Uh-huh.
Yes? What can I do for you folks?
Well, we want to find out about a honeymoon cruise. Something in the near future.
Oh, I think we can accommodate you now. Just what would you like?
Oh, darling, I just described the potential groom to you. What do you think he'd like?
Yeah. Look, friend, do you have a nice long cruise scheduled for, let's say 1952 or 3?
Now, really, if this is some kind of a joke...
Well, please, mister, don't play so fast and loose with my life.
I beg your pardon.
This is the nearest to first base I've gotten yet.
I think everyone will agree that cutting down the cost of car operation is an economy step in the right direction. And if there's anyone who hears more about budgeting and economizing than a grocer, who is he? Mr. J.W. Hogan of 301 H Street, Bakersfield, California, is a grocer, and here's his statement about RPM motor oil. Quote, I must confess I don't know much about a car, but there's one thing I'm sure of. I haven't had to spend 1 cent for repairs since I started using RPM motor oil in 1945. And thousands of other users of RPM, folks in all walks of life, have had the same success with this premium motor oil. For RPM is specially compounded to keep your car's engine clean, to fight off internal rust and corrosion, to keep cylinder walls cool when engine temperatures get hottest. So for protection you trust and the finest wear-saving lubrication, give your car a break by giving it RPM motor oil. Ask for it at independent Chevron gas stations and at standard stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Next week, when the telephone wakes George Valentine out of a sound sleep, you'll hear him saying, Yeah?
George, wake up.
Huh?
We got a letter this morning you're going to love. Harger is right in the middle of it.
Harger?
Yeah.
Oh, I hope it's something big. I'd like to nail him good.
Well, if you can, it will be good. Meet me at Molly's Cafe, 12 sharp.
Yeah, got it. Hey, you know, Angel, I was just thinking, how nice it'd be to have your dulcet voice wake me up every morning.
Oh, well, I got news for you, Mr. Valentine. That could be arranged.
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and Standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George and Frances Robinson as Claire. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little, Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Virginia Gregg as Janice, Gerald Moore as Marcel Millet, Louise Arthur as Miriam, Jack Crucian as Juan, and Earl Keane as the purser. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. Since America began, from all over the world have come men and women of every race, every religion, every cultural background. And into this land they brought a stirring concept, brotherhood. Let's remember that, especially now, during Brotherhood Week. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, there are some of the great Hollywood character actors of the radio era who, if you hear them in some role with a foreign accent, you go, wow, that's X. That's Virginia Gregg. Wow, I never would have thought it. And then there are others where you go, that's Gerald Moore using a French accent. I think some folks just have such a distinct quality to their voice. The accent's very hard to come up. Their natural voice just overpowers it almost. I didn't think his accent was bad. I think it was as good as you could expect, but you could still tell, this is just Gerald Moore speaking with a French accent. Had the same thing when I heard an episode of Cavalcade of America where Bob Bailey played the second role and he was doing a Texas accent. It was never much of a doubt, though his Texas accent wasn't as good as Gerald Moore's French. There wasn't actually much of a reason for this guy to be French. I might have changed his name and even rewritten some dialogue. That's just me. This, by the way, I think is our first trip to Hawaii. We've been to a lot of exotic locations with yours truly, Johnny Dollar. But to Hawaii, that's actually a nice turn, and it's a great place for a mystery. All right, well, I mentioned at the start of the show that we're going to be adding a new show to the list of yes shows. I've listened to and evaluated Crime and Peter Chambers. And while it's not the greatest detective show out there, it does measure up to the standards of some of the other shows that we've included. So, and it added, I think, nice music and a kind of interesting style of storytelling. It's from kind of the mid-50s, which was really kind of the setting of the golden age of radio. But it's pretty well preserved, pretty good quality audio to boot, so we'll continue to evaluate series until I've either given thumbs up or thumbs down to every detective series out there. And it's a ponderous list that seems just to keep growing. Before we do get started, I do want to let you know about our sponsor. You know, it can be a challenge to grow your business. It seems there are a never-ending list of activities that eat into your limited time. That's why I'm so glad to tell you about GoToMeeting, because GoToMeeting allows you to do more with the time you have, whether it saves you a plane trip to Japan or a car trip across town. GoToMeeting saves you time on travel. It can also give you greater flexibility in your scheduling. With GoToMeeting, you can have a meeting with clients in Atlanta and then immediately afterwards be able to connect with vendors in Luxembourg through the convenience of GoToMeeting web conferencing. Listeners to the great detectives of old-time radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com/podcast. That's GoToMeeting.com/podcast. Now let's get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, the Camberwell Poisoning.
Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invite you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his good friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And I'd like to tell you about my favorite time of day. It's just before dinner. You know, when the family's all sitting around in the living room and wonderful things are cooking in the kitchen? That's for me. And that's the time for a glass of sherry. Because Petri California sherry really makes waiting for dinner a pleasure. That Petri sherry is the perfect before-dinner wine. Just look at its beautiful amber color. And then taste that wonderful Petri sherry. What a flavor. Petri sherry has a rich, nutty flavor that's right from the heart of sun-ripened grapes. And if you like your sherry dry, you know, not sweet, you want to get Petri Pale Dry Sherry. Or better yet, taste them both. Don't buy one, buy two. Those letters P-E-T-R-I on the label are the personal assurance of the Petri family that Petri Sherry is truly good wine. And now it's time to keep the weekly appointment with our good friend, Dr. Watson. How are you this evening, Doctor?
I never felt better, thank you, Mr. Bartell. Draw up your usual chair and make yourself comfortable.
Thanks.
That's it.
Oh, I see you've had the old tin dispatch box out again. I suppose you've been going through your notes on tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure?
Yes, Mr. Bartell. I think you'll find it as pretty a little problem as we ever encountered. The story began in 1887. A very busy year for us, my boy. It was the same year that Holmes solved the case of the Amateur Mendicant Society, who held their meetings in a luxuriously furnished vault below a furniture warehouse.
Oh, I remember that story, Doctor. And wasn't 87 the year you both escaped from death in the Paradol chamber?
It was indeed. You've got a very good memory, Miss Bartell. The story I'm going to tell you tonight topped off this unusually exciting year. It was late in October, and the equinoctial gales had set in with exceptional violence. All day the wind had howled and the rain had beaten against the windows of our Baker Street lodgings. Finally, it was nearly midnight, as far as I remember. The storm grew higher and louder, and the wind in the chimney sobbed like a child. Suddenly, much to our surprise, the doorbell jangled, and a few moments later, our midnight visitor stood before us. He was a man of about 55, and as he looked about him anxiously in the glare of the lamp, I could see that his face was pale and that his eyes heavy, like those of a man who was weighed down with some great anxiety. And yet when he spoke, his tone was businesslike and almost aggressive.
I've come to you for advice, Mr. Holmes.
That's easily obtained.
And help.
That is not always so easy. Help the gentleman off with his coat, will you, Watson?
Yes, indeed. Here you are, sir. Let me hang it up for you.
Thank you, sir. I heard of you, Mr. Holmes, from Major Prendergast.
Oh, yes.
He said that you could solve anything.
Oh, I'm afraid he said too much.
That you've never been beaten.
I've been beaten 4 times, sir. 3 times by men and once by a woman. But supposing you sit down and introduce yourself. My friend's name is Watson, Dr. Watson.
How do you do, sir?
How do you do, Doctor? My name is Lovelace, Edmund Lovelace.
And what brings you to me at this hour of the night, Mr. Lovelace?
I'm in terrible trouble, Mr. Holmes. You don't know anything about me, but if you'll accept my case, you can save 4 lives.
I wouldn't say that I know nothing about you, sir, though it's true that I know little beyond the somewhat obvious fact that, well, you're single, that you keep a dog, but not a manservant, and that you are much preoccupied with your business, which I take to be some form of insurance.
Oh, come. Oh, steady.
Now, what is this?
Well,
magic?
I'll wager that my friend's right, though, isn't he, Mr. Lovelace?
Perfectly. But I'll be hanged if I can see how he knows it.
It's a practical application of logic, sir. The briefcase that you carry might at first indicate a barrister or some other professional man, but your brusque, businesslike manner counteracts that suggestion. An insurance broker who must visit clients at odd hours is the likeliest man to combine that manner with a briefcase at midnight.
But the wife and the manservant, and the fact that I'm preoccupied with my business.
Your cufflinks don't match, sir. Each is from a different pair. That would suggest preoccupation, and it's a mistake that neither a wife nor manservant would have allowed to pass.
Yes, but how about the dog?
Oh, surely that's obvious, Watson.
Well, I can't see it.
I shall let you ponder on that matter while Mr. Lovelace tells us his problem.
Mr. Holmes, are you as interested in preventing a murder as in solving one?
Well, naturally I am, Mr. Lovelace. Even more so. But, please tell me your story.
I live with 4 cousins of mine in an old house in Camberwell. My grandfather left the house and a sizable fortune to the 5 of us on condition that we lived together and maintained the family unity. It probably won't surprise you to know that we've grown to get pretty much on each other's nerves.
Oh, what happens if one of you dies, Mr. Lovelace?
His share is divided among the others, Doctor.
Oh, yes. The wonder to me is, sir, that, not that a murder may take place, but, that it has not happened long ago. Who's responsible for the administration of the estate?
My cousin Gerald. He's much older than the rest of us, and he's a thoroughly unpleasant, cantankerous man.
Yeah.
He gets an extra share in the estate as administrator, and in consequence he does work. We feel, of course, that he lives off us, and we're continually quarrelling with him about it.
Oh, sounds like a jolly household, I must say.
There's going to be trouble, Mr. Holmes, I know it. Gerald hates us, and he's jealous of our share in the estate.
You spoke of preventing murder just now. Yet I can see that you've selected your cousin Gerald as the potential murderer. Am I right?
Yes, you are. Mm-hmm. But don't think it's personal prejudice that makes me suspect him. I have good reason for doing so.
Oh, what reason?
This evening, just before dinner, I helped Gerald off with his topcoat and went to hang it up for him. As I did so, I heard a strange, metallic clink in one of his pockets. I slipped my hand inside it and found a hypodermic syringe and a small phial of liquid. I opened the phial and smelled it. Gentlemen, it reeked of bitter almonds.
Bitter cyanide, eh?
Now, what did you do?
I thought of destroying it, but I realized that would put him on his guard, so I replaced it in his pocket. Of course, I warned the others, and we decided that I'd come to you. I had to see a most important client tonight, or I'd have been here earlier.
Yes, it seems odd that you didn't come directly to Mr. Holmes as soon as you'd made the discovery, Mr. Lovelace. After all, if a potential murderer is walking about with a pocket full of cyanide, I should have thought that itself was more important than business.
Well, Yes, I suppose it might seem so to you, Doctor.
Now, that's a most interesting stick you carry, sir. May I examine it?
Of course. Here.
Oh, thank you.
Now I see how you deduced that Mr. Lovelace had a dog, Holmes. There are the marks of the dog's teeth on the stick.
Yes, my dear Watson, but these marks under scrutiny give us even more specific information. He's a large dog. You've had him for some years, Mr. Lovelace, and he's now old and feeble.
Well, you're perfectly right, but I'll be hanged if I can see how you can tell that from looking at a walking stick.
This stick is covered with teeth marks, therefore it has been carried many times by the dog. Now, it's a heavy stick, so only a large dog could have carried it. And the teeth marks also indicate a large jaw. The older marks are deep sunk. Look here. The fresh ones, where the wood is not yet darkened, are shallow. Yes, it's obvious that the jaws are losing their strength.
That's very clever of you, Mr. Holmes, but I don't see what it has to do with the case in hand.
Oh, neither do I, Holmes, I must confess.
No, surely it tells us that your story, Mr. Lovelace, may bear a less terrifying implication than you think. On the other hand, its implication may be even more terrifying. Oh, it's late at night. I feel that any further delay in this matter would be extremely dangerous. I suggest that you get a cab and come to your house in Camberwell at once.
Alice, Randolph, I'm glad you're still up. I was able to persuade Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson to come back with me. Gentlemen, this is my cousin, Alice Harley.
How do you do?
How do you do, Miss Harley?
How do you do?
And my cousin, Randolph Lovelace.
How do you do? How do you do, sir?
How do you do, Mr. Lovelace?
I told him about the whole business, Randolph, so we can all speak perfectly freely.
Let's begin by sitting down, shall we? Randolph and I had just finished a little cold supper. We've been to the theatre tonight.
Well, Mr. Holmes, I suppose Edmund told you about finding the hypodermic syringe and the cyanide in Gerald's coat pocket.
Yes, indeed. May I ask where your cousin Gerald Lovelace is now?
We left the house at 7, but I imagine Gerald went upstairs at 8, as usual. Didn't he, Edmund?
On the stroke of 8, Alice. He's very fixed in his habits, Mr. Holmes. He goes up to his room every night at 8. There he reads or works on his accounts and eventually goes to bed any time between 10 and 1.
Well, he might still be up.
I should like to speak to him a little later. In the meanwhile, may I ask you two young people, tell me quite honestly your feelings about your cousin Gerald?
And you might as well be frank. I've kept nothing back.
All right. Randolph and I hate him. First of all, we're sure he's jealous of our shares in the estate, and then we...
Alice and I want to get married, Mr. Holmes, and Gerald won't hear of it.
But you're your cousins, aren't you?
Only second cousins, Dr. Watson. Gerald is dreadfully conventional. He's threatened us that if we do get married, he'll go to court and have our shares in the estate annulled.
And from the way the will is worded, I wouldn't be surprised he could do it. So you can see why we have no great love for him. Why we're afraid of him.
Well, he sounds an extremely unpleasant person to me.
You mentioned there were 5 cousins in the house. 3 of you were here. Mr. Gerald Lovelace is upstairs. Who and where is the 5th cousin?
The 5th cousin is my brother, Gilly. He's something of a tragedy, I'm afraid. You see, Gilly's 20, but he never developed mentally beyond the age of 8. He had a bad fall in the hunting field when he was a kid. He's been like this ever since.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, sir.
But he's the dearest, most gentle boy you've ever met.
And, incidentally, the one person in this house who doesn't hate Gerald.
The poor fellow doesn't understand the conditions of the will, I suppose.
No. But if he did, I don't think it'd make any difference. I swear Gilly loves every living thing, especially Gladstone. Gladstone is the name of his dog.
His dog? Yes. The dog may be the key to this whole matter.
The dog? What makes you say that, Holmes?
When a man brings a quick and painless poison home to a household containing an old and feeble dog, it's more than possible that he has obtained that poison, quite legitimately, to give the dog a merciful death.
To kill Gladstone? Oh, no.
After all, Alice, dear, he is old. And almost blind
But,
now.
Mr. Holmes, if you think Gerald brought home the poison to put Gladstone out of the way, well, and I admit it sounds perfectly logical, what made you decide to come here tonight?
Because I dare not even guess what you may have done by intruding the thought of murder in this situation. Where is your brother Gilly?
In his room upstairs, asleep.
I wonder if we might go up to him. I'd like to talk to him, if you don't mind. And after that, I want a few words with your cousin, Gerald Lovelace.
He's asleep, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, with a dog in his arm.
I'm afraid we'll have to waken him.
Gilly? Gilly? It's all right, Gladstone. We're not going to hurt him. Gilly?
Who is it? Oh, hello, Alice. Who are these men? They've come to take Gladstone away.
No, Gilly, we haven't.
Oh, of course not, Gilly. We've just come to admire him. Your brother's been telling us what a fine dog he is.
Oh, that's different. Isn't he beautiful? I just had such a wonderful dream about him. Such a wonderful dream.
What was it, Gilly?
Well, he was all young again. Just a puppy. He was chasing a rabbit across a cliff top. And I was running with him. Oh, Gladstone looked so beautiful. Didn't you, old boy? Of course you did. And you know, the rabbit went down a hole, and Gladstone went down after him. And I went down after Gladstone. And we all had tea with the rabbits. Oh, so funny. They all had little green hats on. Hats with feathers. I wanted Gladstone to try one on, but he wouldn't. So sleepy. Come on, Gladstone. Let's go back to the tea party.
Okay.
This world may be a great deal more pleasant than ours, Watson.
That's what I'd like to think, Mr. Holmes.
Now I'd like to have a few words with your cousin Gerald.
His room's at the end of this corridor.
I'm afraid Gilly wasn't much help to you, Mr. Holmes.
On the contrary, young lady, he told me exactly what I wanted to know.
Here we are. This is Gerald's room.
There's no light under the door. He must have gone to sleep.
And I'm afraid we must waken him, too.
Must be a heavy sleeper.
But he isn't. He's a remarkably light one.
Come on, let's go in. Strike a match, will you, old fellow?
Sure.
The gas mantle's at the head of his bed, Dr. Watson.
Yeah.
Well, he's lying on the outside of his bed. He must be... There's blood on the pillow.
Great Scott, Holmes. The back of his skull smashed in. He's murdered.
Oh, no! Horrible!
Yes, Watson, but not the blows on his head. Look here on the table by his bed.
A hypodermic syringe and a broken file.
Yes, a broken file. Reeking of bitter almonds.
Poor devil. Well, I won't pretend I like him. But what a ghastly way to die.
All they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. So the scriptures say, Mr. Lovelace. The very suspicion of the killing has brought murder to pass. Well, it's too late to prevent it. Our job now is to find the killer and see that he's brought to justice.
Dr. Watson will tell you the rest of his story in just a few seconds. Just time enough for me to tell you that if there's one wine that's perfect for any occasion, it's Petri California Sherry. With a bottle of that rich, amber-colored Petri Sherry on hand, you can make that time before dinner a main event. And Petri Sherry is the perfect answer to the question of what to serve when company comes. Serve Petri Sherry alone and let its full, wonderful flavor speak for itself, or serve Petri Sherry with hors d'oeuvres or party sandwiches. And remember, you can serve Petri Sherry proudly, because Petri is the proudest name in the history of American wine. Well, Dr. Watson, so you found Gerald Lovelace dead in one of the bedrooms of the house in Camberwell. What did you do? Send for the police?
Not at once, Mr. Bartell. Sherlock Holmes persuaded the remainder of the household to give him the opportunity of examining the scene of the crime carefully before the police were sent for. And so, a few minutes before 1 o'clock that October night, Holmes and I stood alone in the room of death.
Gas a little higher, will you, old chap?
That's right. You know, Holmes, I think you should have sent for the police right away.
In a case like this, Watson, I prefer to be my own police. When I have spun the web, they may take the flies, but not before. What are the results of your medical examination, old chap?
Well, it's exactly as you reconstructed it, Holmes. He was first beaten on the head with that poker lying on the floor. Then he had the full phial of cyanide injected into his left wrist.
Can you estimate the time of death accurately?
No, this room's confoundedly hot. He might have died any time from 1 to 5 hours ago.
Yes. It's now 1 o'clock, and we know that he was alive at 8. Mr. Edmund Lovelace saw him leave for his room at that hour.
Yes, if he was telling the truth.
One thing we do know for a fact is that this man was murdered at the exact moment he was going to bed. He's wearing his nightgown and nightcap, but his bed has not been slept in.
Well, isn't it possible the murderer might have killed him shortly after 8 and then dressed him in his nightclothes to confuse us?
No, my dear chap. You will notice that the hypodermic needle passed through the sleeve of his nightshirt. Here. Also, the nightcap is crushed and bloodstained from the blows of the poker. No, Gerald Lovelace had prepared for bed.
Yes, with a glass of water on the night table and the prayer book and the watch.
Yes, signs of a prosperous and meticulous man. Mm-hmm. A fine gold watch and in excellent condition. Aha. There's the answer, Watson.
What do you mean, there's the answer, Watson?
I just wound this watch one turn, and then it was fully wound. That provides us with the time schedule for our... Come on. We'll send a servant for the police, and while they're on the way, if you'll call everyone together, I should like to put a few more questions to this family. Before the police arrive, I should like to hear your statements again very carefully, if you don't mind. Mr. Edmund Lovelace, what were your exact movements tonight?
I left here shortly before 10. From 10 o'clock until the time I came to Baker Street, I was with my client.
His name and address, please.
Derek Waterlow, 39 Onslow Square, South Kensington.
Thank you. Make a note of these, will you, Watson?
All right, you're home.
You, Miss Harley, and you, Mr. Randolph Lovelace, went to the theater together. Can any independent witness testify as to your movements?
Well, yes, Miss Holmes. We went with friends, the Grant Moresbys. They live at the Clarendon Hotel off Charing Cross.
What time did you leave this house?
Well, it was about 7:45, wasn't it, Alice?
Yes. And after the play, we went to the Café Royal for a little refreshment with our friends and then came back here.
I see. And what time did you arrive back at this house?
Just a few minutes before midnight. I remember the grandfather clock in the hall striking just as we went into the drawing room.
And your brother Gilly, sir. I hate to waken him again. Have you any idea of his movements tonight?
Well, he never goes out after dark, Mr. Holmes. But I spoke to the cook as we came in tonight. She says that he played cards with her until just after 10 o'clock.
He was fast asleep when I looked in on him shortly after midnight.
Thank you. You've made a note of all these facts, Watson?
Yes, Holmes, I got them all down.
Good. Then let's be on our way to Baker Street.
But the police, Mr. Holmes, they're on their way.
I know. Please give them my regards, will you? Apologize for my informality and tell them that I shall have the answer to this matter probably in a little over 24 hours.
Holmes, here it is well after midnight. You haven't done a thing on the Camberwell case.
No, but you have, old chap. You've checked on all the time alibis and found them valid. I'm much obliged to you.
Inspector Lestrade was here tonight, you know, and he made some pretty caustic remarks, I can tell you.
Oh, didn't you inform him that I'll have the answer to the problem before many hours have passed?
I did, but you know, Lestrade, he wanted action.
He shall have it. Is the watch still running?
Yes, there's another thing. What'll Lestrade say when he finds that you took the dead man's watch?
I've no idea.
Oh, why did you take it anyway?
You sound sleepy, old chap.
Yes, I am confoundedly sleepy.
Well, why don't you go to bed?
What are you going to do?
Continue my vigil with my pipe and the watch of a dead man. Watson, wake up!
What time is it?
5 o'clock in the morning.
Good Lord, will you dig up at this hour?
The watch has just stopped. I'm about to rewind it.
What are you rewinding it for, Holmes? You waited over 24 hours for it to unwind.
When I know how many turns it takes to wind it fully, I shall have the answer to the whole business. 10, 11...
You're being confoundedly mysterious, as usual.
14 turns, and the watch is fully wound. Get your clothes on, old chap.
Well, where are we going on this hour?
To the house in Camberwell. Now I know who murdered Gerald Lovelace. Mr. Edmund Lovelace, I'm glad you let us in. Please take us up to your young cousin's room at once.
Really? What do you want with him?
I'll explain in a moment. Please take us up to him.
Oh, of course, but what brings you here at this hour of the morning?
Mr. Holmes knows who murdered your cousin.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. It's more than the police seem to know. They were here half the night cross-examining us. Here we are. I don't think we'll bother to knock.
Billy? Billy? I'm awake. We heard you coming up the stairs, didn't we, Gladstone? It's the same man again. You're not going to take Gladstone away, are you? Please don't take him away.
Don't worry, Gilly. We're not going to touch him.
Oh. All right, then.
Oh, Gilly.
Yes?
You really love that dog, don't you?
Of course I do. More than anything or anybody.
I believe you'd even kill a man who tried to hurt Gladstone. Wouldn't you?
Oh, yes, sir. I would.
Billy!
No.
Great Potter.
Gilly, I don't think you'd really kill a man. I don't think you could.
Couldn't I, though?
How would you kill him?
Oh. I'd hit him first. I'd take a poker and hit him on the head so he couldn't fight back. And then I'd take the nasty needle he told me he was going to stick in Gladstone, and I'd fill it full of that water he showed me, and I'd stick it in him. That's what I'd do. Then he'd be dead. And he couldn't hurt my Gladstone anymore. Not ever.
Let's leave him, shall we? Goodbye, Gilly. Pleasant dreams.
Goodbye, sir. Good old Gladstone.
You satisfied, sir?
Yes. Poor Gilly. There's no doubt about it, of course.
Oh, can there be no one who described the murder to him, and yet he's just given an exact description of its method?
What'll happen to him? They won't try him.
No. A little pressure in the right places, and he'll be released to a private nursing home. I'll do everything I can, Mr. Lovelace.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Thank you very much.
Well, Holmes, now that we're back in Baker Street and the whole depressing case is finished with, perhaps you'll tell me how you knew that Billy had committed the murder.
Well, consider the time schedules, old fellow. You checked the alibis of the other cousins and found them satisfactory. That meant that Alice Harley and Randolph Lovelace could have committed the crime only at midnight. Edmund only before 10. Gilly only around 11. You said that the time of death could have been at any of those hours.
Yes, I did. So how did you pin it down to 11?
The watch gave me the specific answer. When I picked it up, I unthinkingly wound it. Made one turn and was then fully wound. Now, when does a methodical, precise man like Gerald Lovelace wind his watch?
Just as he's going to bed.
Exactly, old fellow. So that it was obvious that he was killed precisely one watch stem turn before I wound his watch.
Now I'm beginning to see daylight, Holmes. So you let the watch run down?
That's what I did. It took 28 hours, from 1 o'clock the night before last until 5 this morning. Now, how many turns did it take to rewind it?
14, wasn't it?
That's right. Therefore, 1 turn of the watch stem equaled 2 hours, proving that Gerald Lovelace had been murdered 2 hours before 1 o'clock at 11 p.m.
When Gilly was the only one who could have done it. You know, Holmes, I still find it hard to believe that boy was capable of such a ghastly crime. He seemed so gentle.
Oh, he is. Except when his beloved dog's life was at stake, probably out of some mistaken notion of kindness. Gerald Lovelace warned the boy of his intentions regarding the dog. It's a sad business, Watson, a sad business.
I hate to think of that boy spending the rest of his life in a mental home.
I have one prayer for his future.
What's that, Holmes?
The dog Gadsden can't live very long. I pray that Gilly does not long outlive him.
Doctor, that was a remarkable bit of deduction on the part of Mr. Holmes.
Yes, extremely clever, wasn't it? Of course, if I may say so, I was of some small help myself.
Small help? Why, Doctor, you practically solved the case by yourself.
Oh, I wouldn't go as far as saying that.
But, Doctor, you did check all the alibis, didn't you?
Yes, I checked where each suspect was at various times.
Yes, you checked time. And what's more important than time?
Well,
Why, Doctor, time is even vitally important when it comes to wine.
I was wondering how you were going to bring that in.
And one thing we do know, Petrie took time to bring you good wine. So nobody can miss with Petrie wine. It's just got to be good. You know, you can't be in the wine business as long as the Petrie family without really learning all about the fine art of making wine. And don't forget, the Petrie family has been making fine wine since way back in the 1800s. So, naturally, they've been able to hand on down, from father to son, the result of generations of experience at turning luscious, sun-ripened grapes into fragrant, delicious wine. No matter what type of wine you prefer, you'll like it more if it's a Petrie wine, because Petrie took time to bring you good wine. Well, Dr. Watson, what new Sherlock Holmes story do you plan to tell us next week?
Well, now, next week, Mr. Bartell, I'm going to tell you a most unusual adventure that Holmes and I had when we were attending a performance at the Opera House in Rome. It concerns a famous singer who lost her voice, an understudy who was nearly lynched, and a murder that baffled the police. I call it The Adventure of the Terrifying Cat.
Well, that's a story we've got to hear.
Thank you, Mr. Bartell. And before you go, I want to talk to our friends about their war bonds. You know, during the war, the best investment we could find was a United States war bond. And for my money, they're still a great investment. They're called United States Savings Bonds now, and only the name is changed. Savings bonds are sold in the same denominations and give you all the same advantages. And you can buy savings bonds at the same places, at your bank or your post office or through the payroll savings plan. So invest all you can in United States Savings Bonds, because you cannot find a better or a safer investment.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure was written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and was suggested by an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, The 5 Orange Pips. Music is by Dean Fossler. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petrie Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studios. This is Harry Bartell saying good night for the Petrie family. Listen every Monday on most of these same stations, 8 o'clock, to Michael Shayne, followed immediately by Sherlock Holmes. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Sorry the audio wasn't quite up to the standards of previous weeks, but it's definitely listenable and pretty interesting. This was not the only time that someone who was childlike or disabled was the perpetrator in a Sherlock Holmes mystery. It actually something reminded me slightly of the story of the Sussex vampire, though obviously a far more sympathetic portrayal. All right, well, that's actually all for today. Now, before we do get started, I want to let you know about our sponsors, GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting.com is a fantastic service that offers you the ability to do business with the world from wherever you're at through the power of GoToMeeting's secure, safe, and easy-to-use web and voice conferencing services. Listeners to the great detectives of old-time radio can try GoToMeeting out. See if it'll help them in their business. Go to GoToMeeting.com/podcast. That's GoToMeeting.com/podcast to start your free trial. Speaking of hard-boiled, it's time for today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This one is the Arrowcraft matter, and for the first time, the show, rather than being sustained, is being sponsored. So we'll let you go ahead and listen to that. It's the Arrowcraft matter here on the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio.
For your enjoyment, Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum presents from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
Good evening. This is Mr. Snell, secretary.
Oh, sure. Hi.
I was unable to reach Mr. Snell before he left for the West Coast, but he asked me to outline the case to you and hoped you'd follow him out there. It's quite serious.
Oh? What is it?
Our company has been carrying the policies on a line of pleasure boats for a West Coast sales agency, the Arrowcraft cruisers. Within the past 2 weeks, 3 of them have sunk, with no survivors.
Bad risks.
Yes. There's a liability clause. Next of kin in each case is bringing suit for nearly $1 million.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
To make every day more enjoyable, treat yourself often to refreshing, delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Here's a taste treat you can enjoy indoors, outdoors, at work, or at play. The cool, long-lasting mint flavor refreshes you. The smooth, steady chewing helps keep you fresh and alert. Adds enjoyment to whatever you're doing. Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. Healthful, refreshing, delicious.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Grand East Life and Liability Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during assignment to Millard Snell of your legal department on the investigation of the Arrowcraft matter. Expense account item 1, $275 air travel Hartford to Los Angeles and rented car travel from Los Angeles to Newport Beach and the heart of the trouble. Snell? Millard Snell?
Who is it?
It's Dollar.
Dollar? Hurry up. Get aboard.
Watch her. She's wet tonight. Give me your arm. Come on. Thanks.
Didn't think you were going to make it.
You talked to your secretary?
Yes, that was yesterday from Chicago.
Well, I didn't know where you were until I called her from the Los Angeles airport a couple of hours ago. Then when I got here, your hotel told me you just left to charter a boat. What's up?
Myers, how long will it be?
Robert should be here any minute, Mr. Snell. Couldn't leave without him.
All right, if you can hurry him up anyway, do it. Come on in the cabin, Dollar. Out of this foul night air. This fog. I thought it was bad sometimes in Hartford. Another cruise has been reported, Dollar.
An Arrowcraft?
Yes. Reported by a private plane between here and Catalina Island. That's 30 miles offshore.
The Coast Guard been notified?
Yes, but candidly, I hope we see it before they do. Find out what we insured, if we can find it in this fog.
Find it? You mean this one is still afloat?
Before dark, yes, barely afloat. Robert, hurry, get aboard. Ah, there he is, the navigator we've been waiting for. I hope he's sober.
Tell me, what have you learned so far? What makes them sink?
I don't know. The sales agent, Fred Crocker, you'll meet him, swears by Arrowcraft. Says they're one of the best hulls afloat.
But the fact remains they've been sinking.
And a tragic fact, too. The loss of life so far has been horrible. 3 28-foot boats, 11 fatalities. No trace of the cruisers, even. But a life ring or two.
Must have been deep water, then. What about bodies?
7 have been recovered and 4 still missing. We're getting started.
It was 10 p.m. when we left the quiet resort village, and it was dawn when we saw in the fog what we had been unable to find during a whole night of searching. The Arrowcraft, without sign of life, was almost entirely awash, bow down in the channel swell.
That's close enough, Myers.
Right.
We don't want to nudge her. She's liable to roll over.
Well, here we are, but there's nothing we can do about her. How she stays up is beyond me.
Any chance of towing it in?
Not in that shape. Give her any weight, she'll just take more water and go down.
Can you put me aboard?
If you want to go, I can put you there, but I don't know what your weight is going to do. She's ready to roll. What do you think, Roberts?
Oh, we'll put him over the stern. That shouldn't upset her. We'd better get some of those clothes off, Dollar, while we swing around.
All right.
You think it's worth it? You're going aboard?
Worth it? I'm not going for a night like that without having a look at it.
Gives me the creeps. The thing awash like that. Looks dead.
Yeah, too dead. Why isn't there anyone aboard? Why isn't somebody hanging onto the side? Okay, Dollar, we'll move into it now. I'm ready. Now get back there on the transom. That's it. Right there. I'll swing you right into it. Right. There you are. Go ahead. Okay. Hey, get off the gunwale. And stay amidships. Don't get to either side. You'll roll. I'm all right.
Anything there?
Yeah. Yeah, there's something here. There's a girl in the cabin. Her body floated face down in the flooded cabin, held in there by the narrowness of the passageway. After an unpleasant and ticklish 15 minutes, she was lifted aboard the other boat by 3 suddenly silent men. There was little else I could do on the derelict but memorize the name and address on the certificate of ownership. So I left it and followed the girl.
I didn't bargain for this, Dollar. It doesn't bother me to read about 11 of them, but this girl, why, she can't be over 18.
Yeah, I noticed.
You know, if it was a guy, it wouldn't hit so hard. But a kid like this, beautiful.
Myers.
Yes, sir?
Have you radioed in about this?
I waited to find out whether you want to stand by the boat or not.
No. We'll start right back. Get word to the police. Ask them to meet us. I think it's a case for them. The boat's registered to a Chester McNeil, Newport Beach address.
McNeil, Newport Beach.
McNeil, yes, all right. You want to get us started, Roberts?
Right.
What'd you find, Dollar?
Come here, look at this. See? Behind her ear. You see the bruise?
Yeah.
I noticed it when I was getting her out of the cabin.
She'd been slugged?
She could have been. There's long black hair. You see here? The water's ruined most of it, but there's still part of the braid. It could have been a hard blow, one that might have killed a man, but her braid might have softened it. I'm looking for an answer to why she was on that boat, alone and dead. It was an answer I never did actually find and prove, because in the final analysis, the death of this beautiful, dark-haired girl was no more important than any of the rest of them. She was taken to the county morgue, and after making my formal statement to the police and giving them my informal theories, I followed her there.
Well, I take it that the deceased is not a personal friend of yours.
That's right, Dr. Sane. I'm an insurance investigator. I'm in Southern California because a number of people have died in the sinkings of some insured pleasure boats.
Oh, yes, the Arrowcraft?
Yes. And the death of this girl has become important to me. What's her name?
Caruso, Antonia Caruso. She was identified by her mother.
Antonia. Are you planning an autopsy?
Why do you ask?
I wonder if you noticed a bruise behind her right ear.
Yes, I reported it. You're an observant fellow.
Dr. Sane, you must have examined some of the other bodies from these sinkings. Were there any indications of violence on them?
If there were, I was unable to discover them. The period of immersion in other cases, you must understand, was much longer than in the Caruso case. Water makes it difficult. Why do you ask?
Well, the rest of the sinkings, the boats themselves have been blamed. But after today, it seems to me there's a possibility that something else has caused them, at least this one.
The contusions?
Yes. There were two other people on that boat, the owner, Chester McNeil, and his father. But the girl's body was the only one aboard. Why?
I didn't know the particulars.
I think the girl wore braids, Doctor. If she did, could she have survived a blow that would have killed the two men?
Protection? Well, location of the wound would bear you out behind the ear.
Could she have been knocked unconscious, been thrown overboard, and then recovered enough to get back on? Could this have happened to the girl?
Are you suggesting homicide, Mr. Dollar?
I'm not sure. Then I'm not sure why perfectly good boats start sinking without survivors, either.
We'd have to make autopsy examination to determine the degree of concussion.
Well, that's why I asked. Are you going to perform one?
In the state of California, Mr. Dollar, except in cases of unquestionable criminal acts, autopsy is allowed upon only permission of the next of kin. Now, this contusion, well, it could have been sustained so many ways.
Yes, I know.
Matter of fact, arrangements have already been made to move the body to a private establishment.
Oh. Could you give me her mother's address?
Why, yes, I suppose so. But I'd be doing no more than saving you a search of the phone book.
What is it you want?
Mrs. Caruso, I'm the man that found your daughter.
Oh. Then why have you come here? You shouldn't know my grief.
I do, Mrs. Caruso, but I'd like to talk with you if I could.
What is there to say? I don't want to see you. There's no room for sympathy.
I didn't know anything about your daughter, but I'd like to. I'd like to hear about her.
Why do you do this?
Because I don't think her death was accidental.
Oh, go away. Why do you say this? My girl, she never did no wrong.
I didn't mean that, Mrs. Caruso. Please, may I come in?
All right. It's my house. I'm sorry. It's not cared for. There have been so many things today.
Well, I won't stay long.
She was a good girl. She was going to marry Chester. His father was with them. She was going to marry Chester. Oh, we hoped it so much, Antonia and me, that it would be a good marriage.
Mrs. Caruso.
We always dreamed. We were good people, only poor. We give everything so Antonia will be better. She was so beautiful. She was going to marry Chester.
I'm sorry to bother you at a time like this.
Now, she's gone. I saw her.
I saw her, too. And I want to learn why she's gone. Now, Mrs. Caruso, is there any reason that you can think of why there should have been trouble on this trip in the McNeil boat?
Oh, no. They go many times. They love the boat. They go many times, always with his father to take care of them. He loved her, too. My daughter, he called her. She was going to marry his Chester. Be so happy.
Please, Mrs. Caruso.
Oh, my Antonia. Antonia. Please, go. You know my grief. Leave my house. Leave my house.
I
back to Millard Snell's hotel. It was 7 p.m., and I hoped we could get to Crocker, the West Coast agent for Arrowcraft, before the night was out. But I found Snell white-faced when I opened the door, and too anxious to show me the front page of the evening paper.
I didn't know where to find you, Dollar.
For what?
And you haven't heard. Fred Crocker, the Arrowcraft agent. He was killed this afternoon.
Oh.
It says traffic, hit-and-run victim. But I don't believe it. Look at this.
Violence in another form preceded the tragedy, the story said. Crocker's sales office was entered earlier today in a bold daylight strike. The interior was wrecked, but whether or not the entry was for purposes of theft has not been ascertained. The writer didn't make any definite statements, but reading between the lines, you knew that he was exploring the possibility that revenge was at the bottom of both the violence and the tragedy, that those who had lost family or friends in the Arrowcraft sinkings had wrecked Crocker's office and then killed him. But remembering the bruise behind the Caruso girl's ear, I didn't believe that either.
To make every day more enjoyable, treat yourself often to refreshing, delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. The lively, full-bodied real mint flavor cools your mouth, moistens your throat, freshens your taste. And the chewing itself gives you a little lift, helps you keep going at your best. So for real chewing enjoyment that's refreshing and long-lasting, always keep Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. Healthful, delicious, Wrigley's Spearmint Gum will make every day more enjoyable. And now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Snell and I drove out to what had been Crocker's sales office. A sheriff's deputy met us outside and took us in.
Give you some light if... Oh, there's a switch.
Well, not as bad as it could be. At least the drawers aren't dumped.
These are from a file cabinet. We'll start here.
What are you looking for?
Crocker's sales records.
Sales records?
The names and addresses of all the people who bought Arrowcrafts from him. I don't think we'll find it.
I don't get you.
We've got a theory. That those boats didn't just sink, that they were boarded, that the people who've been lost were slugged before they were drowned, and that the boats were scuttled. What do you think of it?
Why would anybody set out to wreck Arrowcraft?
Well, that I don't know. Probably because they're linked to something important. Maybe something or somebody is on an Arrowcraft and somebody else doesn't know which one.
Here's the sales folder, Dollar. It's empty, all right.
Sure it is. That gives them the location of every Arrowcraft between here and San Diego. Sheriff, nobody has said where Crocker was when this place was entered.
They don't know yet. You got a theory?
Yeah. That he was here. Yeah, that after the list of names and addresses was taken, he was dragged out of here and killed with a car for the same reason the others have been killed. Because alive, they might have been identifying witnesses.
Well, they say everybody's got a right to his own opinion, but that's too crazy for me.
Well, I don't blame you. It's too crazy for anybody. Maybe so crazy it'll never be cleared up. Expense account item 2, $112 cost of entertainment that same night for as many members of the press as I could get hold of. They listened to my theory, agreed that it was unbelievable, but worth printing on the grounds of sensationalism. The story made the morning editions, most of the papers slanting it towards warning the Arrowcraft owners listed in Crocker's stolen records. But it didn't look so unbelievable because it had a companion piece. A night watchman at one of the yacht clubs lay near death from gunshot wounds after apprehending a prowler aboard an Arrowcraft. The prowler was being held at the county jail. Who is this guy, Sergeant?
Jerry LaBarber's the name he uses. We put a search on him last night. He's one of those things you call a known hoodlum because nobody's been able to pin much on him. Known to the police in Las Vegas, L.A., and San Diego, to name a few. Here he is. I hope you had better luck with him than we did.
If you meant that, you'd leave me alone with him for the rest of the day.
Sorry. Off the bunk, LaBarber. You got a visitor. On your feet. Stand up.
Okay, hero, you got me up. What's the matter with you?
What's missing, La Barber?
What?
What's lost? What were you looking for on the Arrowcraft? Come on, who are you working for?
I'm out of work. Why don't you save your breath?
How many of the other killings were you mixed up in?
What are the killings? I get into a scrape with an eager night watchman, and now you talk about pinning other killings on me. What is this?
Who are you working for?
I'm out of work.
You could do yourself some good, you know.
I'm not complaining, am I?
You were off to a pretty good start. Even if that watchman lives, you're going to be tried for assault with intent to kill. That's a long rap. You might make it shorter by using your head.
Is that a promise? Don't make me laugh.
You're a sucker, La Barber. But this is a promise. I'm going to see you charged for Crocker's murder.
Who's Crocker?
And I'm going into the business of searching Arrowcrafts myself. Don't be stupid. Why not put the blame where it belongs?
Blame for what?
Okay, Sergeant, I've had enough.
So have I.
I wonder how long it takes to get that way. For what?
I could buy and sell you, you cheap tin star.
Well, what do you think?
He's covering for somebody, isn't he?
Hank, you're right. You shouldn't have tipped your hand so much about searching the boat. Word's going to get out.
Out of a jail cell?
He called for a lawyer, one of the hot men from L.A. We can refuse him visitors, but not a private session with a criminal who happens to be his lawyer.
Oh, I'd like to hear that one.
You should. It's going to put a bigger bullseye on your back than that newspaper story did.
There was no trouble that day, and no progress. We had time to contact 2 Arrowcraft owners that afternoon and went aboard their boats. Nothing came of it but a feeling of frustration because we didn't know what we were looking for, how large or small it was, whether to empty fire extinguishers or pick and open batteries. That night the news broke that the night watchman had died of his wounds. Snell and I made an attempt at eating dinner and took a bottle of cognac to my room to see what it could do. The phone call came at 9:30. Hello?
Hello?
Well, this is Dollar speaking. Who's this?
I'm in a phone booth, so don't bother trying to trace this call. It's about the boat trouble.
All right. What about it?
Not over the phone. You have to come up here.
Where do I meet you?
I've got to be careful. You'll know why when I talk to you. You have to come alone.
What else?
There's a place called Leeds Bar. It's on Long Beach Boulevard, 3 blocks up from the beach. You'll see the sign.
I'll find it.
You can make it in an hour. But you've got to be alone.
I will be.
All right. 11:15.
What was that?
Some girl says she wants to talk about the Arrowcraft. Wants me to meet her in Long Beach.
Don't be ridiculous. You're not going.
Somebody has to do something.
Nothing as foolhardy as this. We've been expecting them to make a move. Here it is. You don't for a minute think she's telling the truth.
I won't find out sitting here swilling brandy with you. I wasted 10 minutes in Newport circling through alleys and side streets to shake any tail that might have been put on me. And then I headed up the Coast Highway. At exactly 10:45, I was ordering a drink in Leeds Bar. It arrived simultaneously with a metallic nudge in the ribs from a man who had taken the stool on my right.
Drink it, Dollar. We've got to go.
I was supposed to get a message from a girl.
You've had it. Come on, drink up.
All right.
Now leave. I'll meet you outside the door.
Do I get to talk with this girl?
She's outside.
Okay.
This way. Here's the car. No, you get in front with her. I'll get him back.
Where to now?
Just a little way. You weren't followed?
I made it a point not to be. Huh? You wanted to talk.
Yeah, I do. I don't know what's going to happen to me, but I don't think I care anymore. It's been like I killed all those people who've died.
Take it easy, honey.
You mean their deaths are your fault?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I could have stopped it, but I was afraid to because one of his men would have killed me.
And I thought he'd stop before this.
He? Who do you mean? Hey, watch what you're going. You better stop, Gwen. This is as good a place as any.
Yeah. I didn't go to the police because I have a record. And he's so powerful, he could have made it look like blackmail and it wouldn't have gone any farther.
Who is so powerful?
George Masterson.
George Masterson? Who's he?
He seems like a businessman. He owns a line of furniture stores. I've known him for 3 years. It was one of those things where every once in a while I'd learn something about him. Well, I finally understood what he really was, and he knew I did.
What kind of payment do you expect for what you're telling me? $1.
I hadn't thought of money. I swear I hadn't.
All right. Go ahead.
Masterson's as far outside the law as you can get. Narcotics, jewels and furs, aliens, Mexican gold, anything. He runs the West Coast for a combination that has headquarters in Italy.
Who knows this?
I do. And I wrote it all down. Ways to prove it. Like the names he uses for all his bank accounts to evade income tax. All of it. That's what he's been looking for on his boats.
Well, then he was
Writing
afraid.
it down was the only way I could think of to protect myself. He was afraid of me because I knew so much about him. He was going to have me killed. We were in Mexico when I told him, Ensenada. When he didn't believe me, I showed him a copy. I told him I'd hidden the original on a boat I'd visited, and that if he killed me, I had a way of letting the police know which one.
Which one is it?
I was lying to him. I didn't put it on a boat. I was lying. Arrowcraft was only a name I remembered. When he asked me, I said Arrowcraft.
You mean there's nothing on those boats and 16 people have died?
I know. I know I was wrong. I should have. But when you're scared, you only think of yourself.
Don't, Gwen, honey. You'll be all right. This paper you say you wrote, where is it?
I have it here. I want you to take it.
Now, get out, Father. I want to take her home. I didn't fully believe her until I had finished reading her denunciation of George Masterson after they'd left me. But by the end of it, I knew that in my hands was the hottest document in California. I knew that hundreds of rotten lives could be crumbled and millions of dollars in criminal traffic could be stopped. And it did away with the possibility of any suit against Arrowcraft or your company. But it wasn't enough. I should have gone to the authorities with it then. Instead, I took a room for the night and mailed it to the FBI in the morning. Then I went after Masterson. I found him in a plush office in one of his furniture stores.
Here. Just a moment, sir. You can't go in. Masterson.
What's the meaning of this? You're announced before you get in here.
Not this morning, Masterson.
I'm sorry, sir.
Get somebody to throw this man out. What's the matter with you? Who are you?
Johnny Dollar, working on the Arrowcraft sinkings. Gwen Thomas. I've read her statement.
I don't know what you're talking about.
About 16 deaths. The FBI can have you for the rest. But I want you for those 16 deaths.
Get away from me.
Get away from you!
Stay away from me.
Get up!
Oh, listen to me.
Come on, get up. As far as I was concerned, that was it. The girl was placed under protective custody by the FBI and the district attorney, who had worked out 75 counts on Masterson's indictment before I left. It's too bad that all of the next of kin of the 16 dead can't sit in the jury box. Expense account item 3, same as item 1. Expense account total, $940.20. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Remember, friends, to make every day more enjoyable, treat yourself often to refreshing, delicious Wrigley's Spearmint Chewing Gum. There's lots of cooling, real mint flavor in every stick. And chewing Wrigley Spearmint helps keep you feeling fresh and alert. You feel better, work better, get more fun out of doing things. So indoors, outdoors, wherever you go, keep some healthful, refreshing Wrigley Spearmint Chewing Gum handy. To make every day more enjoyable, treat yourself often to delicious Wrigley Spearmint Chewing Gum. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd and David Ellis, with music composed and conducted by Leif Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can soon be seen starring in the Columbia Pictures production 711 Ocean Drive. Featured in tonight's cast were Gene Bates, Howard McNear, Clayton Post, Harry Bartell, Hy Averback, John McIntyre, and Jeanette Nolan. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. The makers of Wrigley Spearmint Chewing Gum invite you to join us next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Bob Stevenson speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Another great performance from Edmund O'Brien. Welcome back, folks. I think they definitely put a great degree of emotion in this particular episode, played to it well, really got us to kind of care about the plot that was going on. It was well written, well acted, and I think you can make a case that Edmund O'Brien's performance in Johnny Dollar needs to be thought of as one of the top hard-boiled private eyes. I think probably right below Gerald Moore as Philip Marlowe, and later Bob Bailey's Johnny Dollar. And on par, I think, with Frank Lovejoy and Nightbeat. This was just well put together, and it was good to see a sponsor. The show did not often have sponsors. Sponsorship arrangement was often very hard to work out. The good news was they were at CBS, where they did a lot of stuff in radio just to experiment and to figure out. So the show definitely had established some popularity. This is actually a short sponsorship for Wrigley. They'll disappear in a few weeks, but they'll come back later in the show, in the series history, I should say. The one thing that I think was in CBS's favor when it came to the sustaining shows they produce, they would always do a public service announcement in the middle. One thing you notice listening to Dragnet began as a sustaining summer replacement series when we were listening to that. And I noticed the actual stories got a little bit shorter when they added their sponsorship. The reason was that they were not writing in space for ads. Here, the show doesn't really get any shorter because they were always writing this length of show, but instead of a public service announcement, we got an ad for Wrigley. All right, now back to the second part of Joshua's comment. Also, other shows that would be good are Boston Blackie, Richard Diamond, Rogues Gallery, Ellery Queen, Philip Marlowe, and Nick Carter. And all those shows are on my list of shows I would like to do. You can go to the big list of detective shows. That's on the About tab over at greatdetectives.net. And it's an updated list of all the shows that we are considering to do. He also adds another good show, is Adventures by Morse. While it isn't a true detective show, it is a good mystery. I've heard some interesting things about that. I haven't listened to it a whole lot, just because I know that the Carlton Morse estate tends to be one of the more determined when it comes to making claims of intellectual property. Morris's big accomplishments, of course, were not, that's not the main one, of course, he's remembered for. He's remembered for I Love a Mystery, which other people have commented on, and I Love Adventure. And we have this comment from Susan. Also, she's voting for Candy Matson. Wanted to share that she also appreciates your podcast very much. The only shows I don't especially care for are Novak and Regan, though I definitely prefer Regan over Novak. Thank you for all your hard work. I first found your Dragnet podcast, loved that it didn't have the commercials, and then started listening to this podcast when you started it. I already have heard most of the episodes of the show, but I like them very much, and the extra information that you give. I do wish that we didn't have to listen to the Petri wine ads. I hate alcohol and tobacco. I'm grateful that you not, except for Sherlock Holmes, leave those in. Thank you. Well, thanks so much. I've talked about the Petri wine ads. Those tend to have, I think, quite a bit more charm. Whatever brand it is that sponsors, whenever you have a cigarette company as a sponsor, the ads invariably tend to get just incredibly repetitive. Harry Bartell is probably, listening to a lot of different old-time radio, he's probably the second best pitchman I've ever heard. The only one I think was better is Carlton Bricker over on Lum and Abner. He manages to keep people engaged, and he's got to do that because one of the big bases of the Petri Wine advertising campaign is an advertisement after the adventure's already over. So if he doesn't do that, people are just going to change the channel. But I definitely appreciate where you're coming from. Susan goes on to write, I've been homebound most of my life, and I'm even worse now. Being also visually impaired since 2 weeks after my 13th birthday, no longer able to read, which is my favorite thing to do. I enjoy audiobooks as much as my illness allows, but it limits me a lot, unfortunately. However, your podcast, this one as well as the Dragnet one, play a large part in my life of keeping my mind off of extreme pain as well as being entertaining. I also like Andrew Ryan's Western podcast as well as a few others unrelated. You mentioned before that you are a Christian. I'm glad to know you are my brother in Christ. All the best, Susan. Well, thanks so much, Susan. So glad you're listening out there and able to be some comfort. All right, we have 3 quick comments and then we'll be off. I love this show, and the intro to the podcast is excellent, providing material and background information that keeps my mind coming back time and time again. Thank you for all you do, Bob, and I've been in love with old-time radio for a few years now. Thanks so much for this podcast, Adam. I love being able to find my favorites all in one place. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate all your kind comments. Reminder, be sure, if you have a comment, send it to box13 at greatdetectives.net. Follow us over on Twitter at Radio Detectives. And remember to cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote. It's Candy Matson versus Nero Wolfe. And if you're not sure about what those shows are, you can go to candyvnero.greatdetectives.net. Otherwise, just go to podcastalley.greatdetectives.net and indicate either Candy or Nero or initials, and we will get that vote counted. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.